Good evening. My name is Pierluigi Olivero, and I'm the chair. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting. The parking validation machine is located at the
muy
top
buenas
of the
noches.
stairs. Insert ticket when light is green. Following roll call, we will
Pueden
review
poner su
how the public may provide
boleto
comment.
cuando la
Now we will
esté
stand
en
and salute the
verde
flag and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
y se puede proveer los comentarios. Vamos a decir el himno a la bandera.
Now we will do roll call. Commissioner Lardenois.
Here.
Commissioner Barocio.
Here.
Commissioner Cantrell.
Here.
Commissioner Casey. Here. Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Ornelas-Wise.
Here.
Commissioner Rosario.
Here.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Tordillos.
Here.
Excellent. Now we move on to the summary of hearing procedures.
Chair,
Yes.
I believe the translation is being broadcast in the room right now.
Right,
The
but we're
translators, you're on the English channel, not the Spanish channel.
Yep. All right. And as evident through that, we will offer translation tonight in Spanish. So if you want to address the commission, please fill out the speaker card located on the tables up at the top and over here to the side, and then drop it into that box there. And the procedure will as follows. After a staff presentation, applicants or appellants have 5 minutes. During public comment, the chair will call out the names on the submitted speaker cards. As your name is called, please line up on the stairs. For those who attend by web meeting, the meeting technician will connect those persons who desire to speak to the commission so they may be heard. Generally, each speaker will be given up to 2 minutes, and speakers using a translator will have to double the time. At the discretion of the chair, the time allotted to each speaker may be changed depending on time management of the meeting. After the public testimony, the applicant and/or appellant may make closing remarks for up to an additional 5 minutes. Planning commissioners may ask questions of the speakers. The public hearing will then be closed, and the Planning Commission will then discuss and vote. Since we do have the housing element, which is a high level of interest, and we expect a lot of participation, we're going to limit all public comments on all items tonight to 1 minute, including public comment. Continuing on, if you challenge these land use decisions in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raise at this public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the city or prior to the public hearing. The Planning Commission's actions on rezonings, pre-zonings, general plan amendments, and code amendments is advisory to the City Council. The City Council will hold public hearings on these items. Section 20.120.400 of the Municipal Code provides procedures for legal protests to the City Councils on rezonings and pre-zonings. The Planning Commission's actions on conditional use permits is appealable to the City Council in accordance with Section 20.100.220 of the Municipal Code. Agendas and all staff reports for this meeting may be accessed on the city website. So call to order and orders of the day. Before we begin, I want to remind the Planning Commission members of the public to follow our code of conduct displayed on the agenda. Repeated failure to comply with the code of conduct may result in removal from the meeting. This meeting of the Planning Commission will now come to order. That's right. Okay, at this point in time, prompted by the city attorney, we've been asked, does any commissioner have any ex parte communication with any applicants that have anything on the agenda tonight?
I do.
Okay, Commissioner Lardenois.
And Daniel, can you just remind us what we're required to mention?
So yeah, ex parte communications, basically any communications correspondence you've had with third parties, which are folks who are not city employees or members of this commission, and email, phone call, text.
So city attorney, if a commissioner was talking to their neighbor when rolling out their garbage and said, hey, I noticed the housing element's coming up, and we chatted about it, would that be?
No, because they don't have anything, no business before the commission.
Got it. Yeah. Commissioner Lardenois?
Yeah. So I met over Zoom with Sean Callery about item 4C, the cannabis ordinance update. I also met with Ali Saperman about item 8A, the housing element.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
Yes, I met with Sean Callery about the 4C also.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner.
I'm sorry.
Continue.
I briefly met with Ally, not about the issue, but she texted me and asked for questions, and I said she should send a note to the entire commission, which she did.
And just to be clear, City Attorney, so does that person, are they a member of the public or do they hold a title? Because does that person have an application before the commission?
No, not an application, sir, but sent a letter responding to the housing element.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Oh, public comment. So now's the time for public comment on items that are not on the agenda but pertain to municipal government, but are not on the agenda. The commission cannot take any formal action without the item being noticed on the agenda, nor may any suggestions, we can't do anything in the purview of the commission. So staff, do we have any speakers for public comment today here in the chambers or on the Zoom meeting or the web meeting?
We do not, but I do have a video I need to play for the Spanish translation.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so if we just confirm again, there's no public comment from anyone on the meeting, right? No, there is not. Okay, and then is anything being deferred or removed tonight? I don't believe so, so we'll move straight to the consent calendar, which is the minutes. And I did receive a request to pull an item, which would be item C. So then we have remaining on the consent calendar items A and C. Is there a motion to approve those items?
A and B.
All right, yeah, because I can't read. A and B.
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? We'll vote. Commissioner Lardenois?
Yes.
Commissioner Barroso?
Yes.
Commissioner Cantrell?
Yes.
Commissioner Casey?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Ornelas Wise?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosario?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Tordillos?
Yes.
Myself, yes. So now,
Oh, can I just get, who was the second? I didn't quite see. Was that?
Yeah, that was
Sorry.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
So then I think we're looking for a staff presentation then on item C.
Thank you. So we do have a brief presentation. And while that's loading, I'll introduce myself. My name is Martina Davis. I'm the Division Manager for Citywide Planning. I am joined today by my colleagues Wendy Sulazi, the Division Manager for the Police Department's Division of Cannabis Regulation, and Sergeant Woolsey, who is also with our Police Department's Division of Cannabis Regulation. I should be able to answer any of your questions, but if there are areas that I can't answer, they can help me out. Okay, so today we're here to present updates to the city's cannabis land use regulations, in particular, specifically pertaining to cannabis retail businesses. So I'll start with some background to contextualize what we're doing here tonight. Just starting kind of from the beginning, pre-2014, we had about over 100 businesses operating in our city that were operating in an unregulated fashion. In 2014, Council adopted what is essentially our current regulations. They have been updated, but that was the creation of our regulatory and land use program. At that time, they restricted cannabis businesses to industrial zoning districts only, and that was largely due to the requirement for them to be vertically integrated, meaning they had to grow, cultivate, process, manufacture, and sell all on the same property. At the time, there was a registration window open for everyone to come in compliance, find compliant sites. 16 businesses were able to register, and those businesses remain today. Registration for cannabis retail has not been reopened since that time, with an exception I'll talk about in a second. They did all convert to recreational uses by 2017. So we now have 16 recreational cannabis businesses in our city, and operated fairly successfully. So in 2019, council said, this has been going pretty well. Why don't we look at expanding this? They directed staff to return with an ordinance to expand where cannabis retail could occur and to expand the number of businesses. This work was slowed by the pandemic, but we returned to council in February 2022. Many of the commissioners tonight heard this item, probably in January. And we allowed cannabis retail in commercial zoning districts, restricted it from the industrial districts, modified distance requirements to sensitive uses. Council also voted outside of the zoning ordinance to allow the 16 businesses to open a second location so they can look for a new location in the retail areas, and to allow up to 10 equity applicants upon completion of the city's Equity Academy to open either retail or delivery-only businesses. And that Equity Academy has actually just kicked off recently, so we have folks going through that right now. So here's the distances established to sensitive receptors. Most restrictive outside of downtown and urban villages. Those are less restrictive because of the denser mixed-use nature of those areas. The most stringent standards are to youth-oriented businesses or institutions such as daycare centers, youth centers, elementary schools, preschools, secondary schools. Those distances are all measured as a straight line from the property line to the property line. We also included a new standard for a front door to front door, essentially measurement between cannabis businesses between each other. So the industry was very excited to start looking for new locations, and they did so immediately. Actually, some of them started looking before the ordinance was adopted, and they've run into a number of challenges. The first one, I will own this. Our analysis for the ordinance, we really missed a lot of sensitive uses when we were preparing that analysis, particularly daycare centers. At the time, we thought there was going to be about 1,400 potentially compliant locations based on the data we had. When we started implementing it and working with those businesses, looking at the sites, we found that we were way off. It was not nearly the 1,400 sites that we thought that we were going to have, largely due to, again, some errors in our data and lack of information that we had to be able to fill in the holes. So outside of that, the industry has also encountered a number of challenges that are somewhat unique to the industry, largely having to do with them being a federally illegal business to this day. Some of the challenges include inability for a lot of corporate property owners to lease to them. They're concerned potentially about taxes, essentially the federal government. One area they found that a couple of them shared with me was even a surprise to them how much of an issue this was, is that brand name tenants, so, any store you can think of, T-Mobile, just throwing, Chipotle, McDonald's, they tend to have lease conditions that say that the property owner cannot lease to a illegal business. It's to protect their brand. Chipotle doesn't want to be in a shopping center full of illegal businesses. But what that means is that a lot of property owners that would otherwise be interested are unable to lease to cannabis businesses. And largely their property search has to be focused on smaller single-tenant sites, sites without a corporate property owner, and sites with small businesses. So zoning restrictions aside, they really face a lot of challenges that are unique to them. They've also shared with me that there's increased cost to the property owner. For example, their insurance will go way up. And a lot of property owners are just not interested in dealing with that. And then there's also property owners who just kind of fundamentally don't want this use on their property. And that is a challenge they're also seeing. So despite looking for 15 plus months, only one of the 16 businesses has been able to find a compliant new location. We very much expected them to be able to find new locations pretty simply and quickly. I was ready to accept the applications, work with the businesses, and we just did not find that happened. We prepared a status update as had been requested by council initially, and we shared some of these issues that we had encountered. So council read that and said, hey, we didn't meet the mark. We didn't meet our goal, which was to allow these businesses to relocate to these commercial areas. And they provided us some direction to come back with some modifications. Specifically, they asked us to come back with modifications to the distance requirements to schools, daycare centers, and youth centers, reducing it to a 1,000-foot path of travel. So that would be from the cannabis business entrance to the closest public entrance of that use, or a 500-foot measured in a straight line from property line to property line. And whichever is more restrictive will apply. Our analysis is likely in probably just about every case, the 500-foot is going to be the more restrictive measurement. They also asked us to adjust distances from libraries, community and rec centers and parks down to 500 feet. We had initially proposed an overlay that restricted businesses from operating in or opening in a higher crime police beat. That is defined, we got that out of alcohol law, that's defined as a police beat with over 20% above average crime reports. We found, some of the reasons having to do with that, we just found in practice, it didn't make a lot of sense. It was restricting areas that kind of arbitrarily, police beats are sometimes large, sometimes strangely configured, and we just found it blocking sites without a good reason. So council did recommend removing that. They recommended eliminating the distance requirement between storefronts and then to propose a standard to address concentration of cannabis storefronts, though. So not a strict distance between each other, but something else that we could look at around concentration. So here I've highlighted the distances that would change. So again, parks, community and rec centers, libraries, schools, daycare centers, youth centers, and then the distance between the cannabis retail storefronts. Substance abuse, emergency shelters, and residential uses would remain the same. So for the proposed concentration standard, we looked at a number of items. There's a couple ways to do it. You can look at a predefined geographic area, and you can say no more than so many within that area. We looked at that first, and we looked at a few different kind of options around that. Would it make sense to do census tracts? Would it make sense to do police beats again? Would it make sense to do zip codes, council districts? We just felt when we started looking at all of those geographic bounds are designed for other purposes. And so when you start kind of looking at them as a concentration standard, it does start looking kind of arbitrary. Council districts, for example, are very, very large. So businesses could be, on total separate sides of the council district, and it wouldn't look very close to each other. So we decided not to go with that. We are recommending a standard that, again, we are borrowing from alcohol. There is some overlap in those uses. They both sell intoxicants, essentially. That said, cannabis is heavier regulated by the city than alcohol is. So we looked at an existing concentration standard we have, which is no more than 4 storefronts within a 1,000-foot radius. That's one of the things the commission and council looks at when determining public convenience and necessity for off-sale of alcohol. And that would be locked in at the zoning verification. So let me show you what that looks like. So we've got just a sample site. Just to be clear, there's no proposal here. Just use this as it's a nice, easy example. This is what a 1,000-foot radius would look like. And I'll show you kind of how that would work. So we've got, let's say you have this business represented by the green cross opening here. Let's see, you can do a couple more, do this 5th one outside of the radius. Where we run into a problem is with this one in blue. Let's just show you how it works. So if you were to draw the 1,000-foot radius just around that one in blue, it would be okay because it's the 4th within its own radius, but it creates a 5th within a radius of one of the other businesses. So in this example, that one would not be allowed. So that's how the standard would work. For outreach, and we had done extensive outreach with the previous ordinance, and we had shared, interestingly enough, so we had shared the maps of where we thought compliant sites were going to be. And I mentioned problems with that map. We have greatly improved our data set since then, and we prepared a new map, and when you compare them, they're actually pretty close to the same. So these zoning changes that are proposed tonight actually result in what we thought our original ordinance was going to result in. So we focused on doing information so the public could contact us. We had an informational website with a video. We have had a contact list of people over the years who have asked us to stay updated on cannabis industry, zoning changes and other changes. We emailed all of them to let them know. We've met with industry stakeholders and we've been available to respond to comments and questions. For CEQA, we prepared an addendum to the previously prepared initial study for the 2022 ordinance. I'll just shorten the CEQA analysis. This allows retail in retail zones where retail is already allowed, and there's nothing unique from an environmental standpoint around cannabis retail, so we found no new impacts. So in summary, we found that, we thought we were going to adopt a framework that would allow the businesses to quickly relocate. They are very interested in relocating to our commercial areas, and that will help the concern around concentration in District 7. We didn't hit the mark, and so we do feel that updating these standards would implement that direction that we thought we had done in February. And here's the new map I'll just share. All those little blue circles, those are daycare centers. There's actually a lot of daycare centers in the city, and we do feel like we finally have a complete data set for that. So I'll end with our staff recommendation: adopt a resolution approving the cannabis business ordinance addendum to the initial study and negative declaration, and adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 20.80 of Title 20 of the Municipal Code to modify distance requirements for cannabis retail businesses to schools, daycare centers, youth centers, community centers, rec centers, parks, eliminate distance requirements between storefronts, add a standard to address concentration, remove the police beat restriction, and make other technical, non-substantive, and formatting changes within those sections. And that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I see we have some commissioners. Do you want me to go for public comment first? Okay, great. Do we have anyone? I see no cards, so then question would go to the administrator of the web meeting. Do we have any hands raised on the web meeting?
I do see that we have one hand raised. Let me share the screen here. Okay, let's see. Hi. Oh, sorry, Sean, probably right. You are unmuted. Go ahead and unmute your device.
Good evening, Chair and Commission members. Thank you so much for your time. Martina did a wonderful job in overlaying sort of the issue here at hand. What we're talking about here is really a compatibility of the map to the language. What really was the intent of the council, having worked with the council since 2019 through COVID and the trials and tribulations, and so now 4 years later in changing this ordinance, was to really move cannabis from industrial use, where it's not compatible neither in parking or other retail uses, to a more compatible commercial and retail uses. Other cities do not put cannabis in industrial. They put it in retail commercial. In Union City, they put it in a retail commercial shopping center, what they call a super regional shopping center. And in Redwood City, all of their zoning and all of the new dispensaries there, of which 1 of 6 is currently open, is in retail locations. So that is really the way that it is working. Since the original passage of the ordinance, the cannabis market has doubled in size. It's gone from 89 million to 185 million. So you have doubled number of the customers.
And thank you very much. We've limited comment to 1 minute tonight since the item's on the agenda. Thank you for that comment. If anyone has any questions, we can always go there. Is there any other hands for the public, for the web administrator?
No.
Okay, let's turn to the commission. Commissioner Young.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm the one who requested to pull the item, and I'm going to talk about why, but I have a question for staff. First of all, thank you for the presentation and the staff report, which was really, really thorough and well done. I think did a good job of identifying the issues. So I have a process question. I just want to make sure I understand what we're being asked to do tonight. So from what I understand, the City Council directed staff after their November 1st meeting to make specific changes to this cannabis ordinance. And so the document that we're reviewing, that you prepared, the draft ordinance, reflects the specific changes that the city council requested, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, great. So with that in mind, I understand why it was on the consent calendar. However, there's a couple reasons why I pulled the item. One is this is a controversial issue, both amongst the members of the commission. I think that was reflected. You know, we had a really hearty and good discussion in February. And I'm pretty sure there's other commissioners that want to weigh in on this. And I thought it was interesting that the survey that was done of the residents got a lot of input, which is great. And it was about 50-50 from what I read, right? Pro or con. You know, this is a difficult issue. So I also felt if there's any members of the public here on Zoom that wanted to weigh in, that was important. Yeah, all that being said, I know that we are looking at an ordinance that was developed directly from input from the city council, but I feel like this commission, we're being asked to be a fresh set of eyes on issues, that we can take a look at it independently and then give our input to the council. And I wanted to do that tonight. I have some other comments, but I'm going to reserve them because I'm actually really interested in hearing the other commissioners on this. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Lardenois.
Yeah, excuse me. I just want to echo what Commissioner Young says. Thanks, Martina, for this presentation and staff report. And also, Commissioner Young, I appreciate your thoughtfulness in wanting to have a full discussion about this. Question, all the distance standards that are, part of this ordinance, they apply across city borders, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then, I don't believe any bordering jurisdictions have cannabis businesses right now, but if they did, would the concentration also apply across city borders?
Yeah, I would say it would. It doesn't specify cannabis businesses in the city of San Jose. It cannot create more than 4 cannabis retail storefronts within the radius. So if you had that in another jurisdiction, I would interpret that to apply.
Okay, just theoretical, but curious. But yeah, I definitely, want to hear what everyone has to say. But at the same time, my view of this item is the council already took an action to adopt the current version of the ordinance, and what we have here is an amendment to bring it closer to the council's original intent. So I think that's enough for me to make a motion to approve this item.
Is there a second?
Second.
I had 2 at least, but I think I heard this one to my left. Absolutely,
yeah,
we're
I'm
not
not trying
done.
to
We're
close
not.
off
It's just a motion. Yeah. Motion on the floor with a second. Casey, for your notes. Okay, so next is Commissioner Ornelas Wise.
I am the only woman on this commission, and I'd like to speak on behalf of mothers. And I have 2 children, a 5 and an 8-year-old. And recently, my 5-year-old was in daycare, and now she's in school. So I would not want any of these businesses near my children. I wouldn't. I don't think that, if I sit here on behalf of the residents of the city of San Jose and to preserve the integrity of the city that I love, I believe that this is not the best for my city. So I'm not going to be for it. Just like I like to gamble, but I don't want a casino in my backyard because I know the damage that it's going to do to my community. It's the same thing. So I'm going to, for me, it just comes down to there's already a over-concentration in District 7, which is my district. So no, I'm not going to recommend additional, these type of businesses in commercial areas in my district. Absolutely not. We've already taken the biggest hit, right? And they're really close to Monterey Road and Tooley Road. And the intersection of Tooley and, it's Tooley and Center, and McLaughlin and Kirtner and Monterey are the worst, most unsafe intersections, very close to where these businesses are, okay? I was pretty disappointed that this was on the consent calendar because there was a survey that was done in March 2021, and over 400 people responded. 50% of them which were opposed to this. That's a big group. That's a big group. You know, I have to go to bat for the children and for the families and for the integrity of the city. I mean, I even have a hard time with the fact that that what exists right now is so close to San Jose State and the students. I have a hard time with that. Yeah, so I think that when you have a use like this, you know, I mean, if you're going to change all these policies in the zoning ordinance, why don't you do it for other small businesses that were really hit hard during COVID? Why you giving precedence to something like this when there's a lot of mom and pop shops that were hurt? You know, unfortunately, I have experienced, I know people that marriages have been broken up, families have been broken up, single parent households because of drugs, right? So, you know, I'm gonna have to say no. Yeah, just on behalf of the city that I love and the families, that's where I stand. During COVID, I had 2 friends that lost their children to overdose. One of them, I went to her house, I didn't realize that her son's body was still there. So I'm gonna have to stand really strong on this. Yeah, that's how I don't think that by allowing it closer to children, schools, that these organizations are going to be able to overcome some of the obstacles that they're already facing. You know, as these things, I would encourage more like an annual festival or something like that, where you know, more like a festival, like a 3-day festival, or concentrated in one area, just kind of like a special district, you know, that's far from children and families, something to that effect, you know, because I am for businesses, but yeah, for this, I have to speak up on behalf of mothers that have lost their children to drugs, and that's just where I stand.
Thank you, Commissioner Ornelas-Wise. Commissioner Casey.
Yeah, just to speak to the point, it's my understanding that the reason that there's a concentration in District 7 at the moment is because of the old zoning, right? That only put it into certain areas because of the light warehousing or whatever the zoning was, right?
Yeah, that's correct. The original zoning restrictions really only allowed a couple geographic areas, and so that is why they ended up concentrating largely in Council District 7.
And so in theory, by passing this and being in favor for this, it would spread it out of District 7 and sort of alleviate that clustering effect.
Yeah, actually, that was one of Council's stated main goals when they directed this ordinance work in 2019, was if they were allowed to move, that they would likely reduce the concentration in Council District 7.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cantrell.
First, I just want to say I'm a single dad. I raised my children. It was complicated, and there are a lot of things in the world to worry about. I respect and appreciate your perspective, and I'm always glad to hear you voice it. Just know that, definitely. I'm also curious, though, where the police ring in on this. I'd like to hear some perspective.
Wendy Salazzi, Division Manager for the Police Department's Division of Cannabis Regulation. Is there something in particular you want to know what our opinion is?
Well, I've learned on other issues that if you don't say anything, it may mean you're saying yes. What are specifically, do you have any concerns from this from a policing perspective? Any at all? And 2, do you feel that this addresses any of your concerns, this movement, or does it actually create more concerns for you in terms of policing?
The changes proposed today are pretty much the same as what we evaluated and looked at last year, only now we're kind of making the changes that, you know, based on what Martina had already said, that we thought were going to be the case for where they could locate somewhat last year. It does allow a little bit more flexibility, and it is a little bit closer. But we do regulate this cannabis industry very, I think we have a robust regulatory program. We have a lot of security measures in place and things that they're required to have in place in their businesses, and we feel confident. I feel confident with our team that we do a good job at that. I feel confident that the regulated businesses adhere to the rules. If there's ever any issues, they're addressed immediately. There are a lot of operating rules in our Title VI, which is not what we present to the Planning Commission, but it is to full council. And Title VI has a lot of their operating regulations, and we also have city manager regulations for regulating these businesses. And there's a lot of like property maintenance, security requirements, age verification, electronic scanning devices, things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that these businesses have to adhere for being a good neighbor. I think something, it's like within 300 feet, they have to have graffiti, trash removal, all sorts of things like that from like the public eye. I think, again, we put things in place in Title VI and for the operating that we feel comfortable, that makes it safe for our city. I mean, can things happen? Yes. It's not foolproof, but, we do our best to create standards that will make it safe for our city.
So that's my next question, actually. Have things happened? Have there been any violations, significant or otherwise, from any of the current licensed facilities?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but anytime that there have been issues with the business, they've addressed it. We've addressed it with them, and then they've rectified it.
So no one's lost their license?
Pardon me?
No one's lost their license?
No, and the 16 businesses are still currently registered.
No suspensions?
No.
Okay.
No, usually it's, a lot of times it's just if we notice it and we talk to them, they change it right away. Sometimes it could result in a fine or a citation, but it gets resolved right away because code enforcement's also a partner with us. So they also will have, site inspections too, and so things are addressed through them as well.
Okay, one final question. So in the process of opening this up to additional facilities, will you be able to provide the same level of service and monitoring that you currently do?
That's our hope. We haven't increased our staffing yet. Again, we're waiting right now with the, we have to kind of wait and see how the expansion goes to see how many businesses are what they're allowed to do now is the 16 registered businesses can have a second location in these expanded retail areas. Like Martina said, there's only one that has an approved location. It has not opened up. It just is going through the permit process now. When we just kicked off the Cannabis Equity Business Academy, and so that just started, and with that there will potentially be 10 more businesses in our city. And then we plan to address it from a staffing perspective through the regular council process, working with the budget office and then city council to be able to address that.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, Commissioner Barroso.
Perfect, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the presentation. Just as valuable as the police department's presence and ability to respond to our questions is very much appreciated. I wonder, in contexts like these and in future contexts, is there a way to invite more expert opinion, right? For example, I really wonder, and I appreciate the crime stats and that aspect of the issue, but I'm really curious about what perhaps the county public health department has to say, right? Is there an uptick? What trends do they see around such businesses? And have they triangulated any data with some of these sensitive areas and locations. So I wonder, I know they're not, well, if they're here or on Zoom, if they can speak to possible trends that we need to keep in mind as we weigh in when businesses and sensitive locations are brought closer together. And then two, maybe for staff, do we need to request certain departments to come and speak, or is there a way where we can have a more range of opinions present to give us more context?
Staff?
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely you can make a request and we'll see what we can do. County Health, for example, not our agency, right? So, we can invite them, we can ask them. I can't force County Health to show up, but if we had a request for that, we could certainly reach out to them and ask. So yeah, moving forward, definitely. It hasn't been something, to my knowledge, they haven't tracked it. And I will say I did kind of a quick research to see if I could find any more recent studies around trends, around actually this kind of the things, public health trends. I wasn't able to find anything that I thought was really worth sharing. So I did start looking at that. But yeah, I would say moving forward, if you have specific experts you'd like to have in mind, please reach out to us and make that request.
Any more comments, Commissioner Barroso?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Coming back around, Commissioner Young.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First of all, Commissioner Ornelas-Wise, thank you. I have great respect for you. I wish we had more women on the commission, frankly. And I always appreciate your input. I have grandchildren. I'm old enough to have them, and they're in a daycare center, and frankly, I wouldn't want a dispensary near them either. So I get it totally, completely. And frankly, that's one of the reasons I pulled the item, is I remember you had concerns in February, and I wanted you to have a chance to express them. That being said, I am in support of the motion. I do have a question for the staff, and then I have a couple comments. What is the definition of a daycare center? What's the minimum number of children that qualifies?
That's a great question. I'm not sure there's a minimum. So what it is it's anybody that's licensed as a standalone commercial daycare center. So there may be a minimum to get that license. I think in practice there probably economically is a minimum number of kids you would need. But we are talking the standalone daycare centers. So it could be a range, small to large.
The reason I ask is it was actually really revealing to me when you had the map with all the blue dots. And I know that there is a state qualification for small family daycare, which is a daycare out of the home. I don't know if that would apply to this ordinance, or is it just standalone daycare centers?
So we're mirroring the state's language, which is standalone daycare centers.
Okay.
It does not include the small family daycare homes. If
Okay.
it did, that map would be all blue.
Understood. Okay. So under the new proposal, what is the distance to a daycare center that's being proposed?
So it would be 1,000 feet as measured from the entrance of the cannabis retail store to the public entrance of the daycare center, school, youth center, et cetera, or 500 feet as measured from the property line to the property line, and whichever one is more restrictive would apply. Again, having kind of looked at some examples, we think that the 500 foot is likely to be the more restrictive measurement in most cases.
I'm actually confused on that. It seems like 1,000 feet would be more restrictive. Could you explain that?
Yeah, so the 1,000 feet would be measured because it would be measured from the actual entrance of the business, not the property lines. By the time you're kind of having that 1,000 feet go across the parking lot, down the street, over into that daycare, it actually does add up pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you. So, I just want to talk about why I'm in support of this. Again, with full respect, Commissioner Ornelas-Wise, to your concerns. First of all, cannabis is legal in California. We voted on that. There's still a lot of controversy of whether it should be, but it is. That's what the voters decided, as is alcohol. And I would argue that having a liquor store close to a daycare center is probably worse. That's just my opinion by observing the people that hang out in front of liquor stores. And that's not to be disrespectful. I want to make that clear. Not being disrespectful to folks at a liquor store. So I'd like to retract that comment. I apologize. But my point being that we've sold liquor in California for a long time. We have a lot of liquor stores. I'm sure some of them are close to daycare centers as well, which I also think is undesirable, but it's a fact. Something really interesting I found in the report is that according to the police department, the crime is actually lower on the blocks that have dispensary than average. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, so we pulled crime statistics right from the blocks containing the dispensaries, and we tried to compare them to, I believe it was kind of commercial areas that are comparable. And we did find lower crime. Now, I do want to be clear, you know, it was not a scientific study. It was just us pulling the crime statistics, but we were curious to see, you know, what did we find? And we were a little, I don't know if we were surprised, but definitely the numbers did not show increased crime around the dispensaries as compared to comparable commercial locations.
Great, and I think that's really, really good, right? I think that's an argument why this ordinance is okay. Two more points quickly. Having read in the media, and I'm sure you have too, that the legal cannabis industry in California is having a difficult time because they're competing with the illegal marijuana growers. And that's really unfortunate because that's one of the reasons why I think at least I voted in favor of it, because the whole idea was to, you know, make it legal, tax it, regulate it. So my point being that anything we can do to facilitate legal cannabis dispensaries, I think is a good thing, because the harder we make it for the legal industry, the more we're allowing the, you know, the illegal folks that are growing marijuana. And the last point I want to make, and I'll be done, is I believe that the dispensaries are a significant source of tax revenue to the city. I don't think we necessarily need that number, but my point being that we have a really tough structural budget deficit in the city. We're going to talk about housing tonight. We need more housing, but we also have a housing jobs imbalance. So I think these dispensaries are a significant source of tax revenue, which can then be used for affordable housing, you know, other services for folks that are at risk. So thank you for listening. I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Larnois.
Yeah. So Commissioner Ornelas-Wise, I just want to say thank you for your comments, and I totally respect your opinion on this. I think this is exactly why we expanded the Planning Commission, to have a broader range of perspectives up here on this dais. And Commissioner Ambrosio, I just want to say I have in the past asked other city departments to attend, give their feedback on an item, and found that really helpful, so definitely encourage you to do that. I just wanted to, Martina, just one more question. So when I was looking back at the history on this, my understanding is when the council adopted the current ordinance in 2022, they added a moratorium on new cannabis businesses in District 7. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and the staff recommendation that we have here would not change that?
Yeah, so the staff recommendation would not change that. We do note that we did hear from the industry that they would like to relocate within that district, and they feel that it could actually help the concentration. So I will put that out there, that is a request of the industry to remove that standard. But, you know, so something the commission could consider recommending, but we kept our staff recommendation pretty close to the council direction, and we'll explain that to council as well so they can consider that.
Sure. Yeah, I think personally, I'm good with the staff recommendation as written. I think if it's felt that that's an important moratorium to have, that we should leave that alone. That's it for me.
Okay. Martina, when you're doing these mapping exercises and you use like mapping GIS software, are those already populated with data such as daycare center, or do you have to import in those addresses and then it shows up?
So some of the data we do have populated, some we actually have to look for it. I don't know what happened with the daycare layer last time. I thought we had used the state's data. We may have been using an old layer, but we did get the most recent layer. So yeah, some of it's definitely manually searching. I'll tell you, youth centers, for example, that was one we really had to kind of manually look for. We don't have a data set for that. So it just depends on what we're looking at.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, appreciate everyone's comments. This all started with Prop 64 in 1996 when the California voters decided to make cannabis available for medicinal purposes, then followed by Attorney General Eric Holder of Obama's administration in 2009, who said, go for it. And I was actually intimately involved trying to make sure that there was access, but also protections for neighborhoods. And we had our author of the cannabis tax in November 2010, which had a 78% approval. That doesn't really happen that often, and that is a significant revenue for the city. And now we have recreational legal since November 2016. I'm comfortable supporting the motion. I know not everyone would support it, but I know spouses don't agree on everything either. So with that, let's vote. Commissioner Lardenois.
Yes.
Commissioner Barosio.
No.
Commissioner Cantrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Casey.
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia.
No.
Commissioner Ornelas-Wise.
No.
Commissioner Rosario.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Torrijos.
Yes.
And myself, yes. And we'll display the vote. And then we'll move on to item 7, general plan consent calendar.
Hang on one second. I didn't hear Commissioner Barosio's vote.
That was a no.
No, okay.
Yeah. And so let's see here, go back to, okay, general plan consent calendar. We have 2 items. Are there any hands on the web meeting to speak?
Chair, I'm sorry. Could we display the vote? I'm not sure what the vote was.
Yeah, it's supposed to be displayed. That would be someone that's, is it administering the web meeting who displays the vote? Or is that?
I mean, I can repeat what I have, if that would be helpful.
Sure.
Hang on one second. Commissioner Oliverio was yes. Commissioner Lardenois was yes. Commissioner Barosio was no. Commissioner Cantrell was yes. Commissioner Casey was yes. Commissioner Garcia was no. Commissioner Ornelas-Wise was no. Commissioner Rosario was yes. Commissioner Torrijos was yes. And Commissioner Young was yes. That's what I have.
So the motion passed, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
7-3.
That was my basic question.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no sweat. I don't know who's supposed to display the vote, but okay, back to item 7, general plan consent calendar. We have 2 items. Are there any hands raised for items A or B on general plan consent calendar, GP 21015 or GP 23002? Any? Is that for this item? No. Got it. Okay, just and there's no one from the audience that wants to speak on the consent calendar, so I go back to the person administrating the web meeting to ask if there are any hands raised for the general plan consent calendar.
We do not have any hands raised.
Okay, great. At this point in time, we take a motion, or if someone wants to discuss it, it's up to the commission.
I move we accept the consent calendar.
Okay, is there a
Second.
Second, great. So we have a motion and a second. Torrijos for the second. Young and Torrijos. Michael is the secretary this evening, capturing all the comments from everyone. Okay, with that said, if there's no comments, then I guess we'll just move to a vote on this consent calendar item. Commissioner Lardenois.
Yes.
Commissioner Barosio.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Casey.
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia.
Yes.
Commissioner Ornelas-Wise.
Yes.
Commissioner Rosario.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Torrijos.
Yes.
Myself, yes. And we'll display the vote, and if that's not able to be displayed, the vote was unanimous. So then we will be moving on to item 8, public hearing, GP 22001, the city's housing element. And this give time for staff to assemble, and they will provide a presentation to the commission. And who's starting off this evening?
Yes, we're just waiting for the PowerPoint to load.
No sweat.
Thanks. Oh, Planning Commission.
Which other one says draft?
Okay. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Ruth Cueto, and I'm a Supervising Planner in PBCE. With me today is David Keon and Rima Mahamud from the Planning Division. We also have Josh Ishimatsu from the Housing Department and Jared Ferguson from the Office of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs. Okay, there we go. We're here to present on the housing element and recommend that request recommendation from the Planning Commission to the City Council that they certify the supplemental EIR and adopt a resolution approving the housing element and the revisions to Chapter 7 of the General Plan. Before we begin the discussion on the findings in the housing element, I'd like to summarize the timeline. This slide is a high-level view of the timeline of our work. We are now in phase 5 of the public hearing process. And what staff will present tonight is the culmination of a multi-year, multi-departmental effort to produce a substantially compliant housing element. It's mostly a technical document, and we tried our best to present the information and execute this process in a more easily digestible format with the resources at our disposal. While some of the work on the assessment of fair housing began in 2019, the core housing element work started in early 2020 in the midst of a global pandemic, a time of great uncertainty. It was also a time when communities across the country were engaged in difficult public conversations around the legacy of racism and that legacy's effect on our planning and housing institutions. It helped inform some of the programs and policies in Chapter 3 and aligned with the requirements of AB 686, the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Law. While 2020 feels like quite some time ago, I want to acknowledge the context that we began this work in, as well as a tremendous effort and dedication this team has maintained throughout the process and that first year of the pandemic. This chart describes the process we've engaged in since the public release of the draft last year. We opened a second optional public comment period, held study sessions with Planning Commission and the Housing and Community Development Commission, and consulted with the Housing and Community Development Department, HCD, on our progress to achieve a compliant housing element. So the housing element is the city's official housing policy document. It's required by state law and incorporated into each city's general plan to guide housing. In addition to fulfilling state law and refreshing our housing policies, the update is also an opportunity to have conversations with San Jose's residents and stakeholders about San Jose's growth and development. This chart breaks down the city's regional housing need goals for the 2023-2031 housing element. And as you'll see, we have to accommodate 62,200 new housing units. The breakdown by income level of units, it also shows a breakdown of income level of the units needed. The third column identifies how much of the goal is for each category. So roughly 55% of the first 3 rows are what we consider affordable housing, and 45% of our goals are for above moderate or market rate housing. The last column shows the change in the number of units in each category since the last cycle. Our total goal went up by 27,120 units. To clarify, the city's requirement for these goals is not to build the housing itself, it's to plan to accommodate housing need by putting in place land use policies, taking actions such as zonings, and executing on its policy and program work plan to further fair housing objectives and reduce barriers to the construction of housing and the preservation of housing. And with that, I will hand it over to Joshua.
Thanks, Ruth. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Josh Ishimatsu, and I am an acting division manager for the city's housing department. So this slide is an overview of our community engagement process for the housing element. And let me start by saying that public engagement is a very important part of the process to create the housing element. City staff, San Jose has placed a huge emphasis on doing outreach to educate and to get feedback through a variety of methods, both from general members of the public and from subject matter experts and stakeholders. As Ruth outlined earlier, we started outreach for the entire package of documents with our assessment of fair housing in 2019. And since then, we've been hearing from folks, including emails and comment letters right up until today. We've tracked feedback, including from all the events that we've hosted over the past few years. And this slide summarizes some of the statistics from our community engagement process, including convening over 100 meetings and engaging with over 4,200 participants, although that number does include duplicates. In addition to this list, we received 24 formal comment letters with 160 requests and comments, and received public comments through our website. The state's requirements are to hear generally from the community and also to focus in on very intentional efforts to hear from members of what the Fair Housing Law calls protected classes. And so protected classes include race, gender, family status, religion, ethnicity, disability status, veteran status, and there's more about their specific housing needs. So this slide outlines 5 major areas of housing needs that we've identified for the housing element. We derive these from analyzing data and from the public input, which I just described. The first identified category of housing needs is around housing affordability and displacement. San Jose is one of the most expensive places to live in the country, and these housing costs are driving many working class and even middle class families to move out. The second identified need is to address homelessness. You know, as housing costs have increased in our city, so has homelessness. And we also have to address segregation, as documented in our assessment of fair housing, a required analysis by the state of California, now as part of the housing element. By the numbers, San Jose is one of the most segregated cities in the Bay Area. Disparities in access to opportunity. Because of the segregation and historic policies such as redlining, many San Jose residents have not had the same access to resources and to opportunities as others. And finally, access for persons with disabilities. In our community engagement process, people with disabilities consistently identified issues in finding accessible housing. This next slide outlines our 5 major goals for the housing element. The intent is that these goals align with the needs that I described in the previous slide. It's not a one-for-one correspondence. It's not exact relationship, but hopefully it's obvious how they're related. Goal number 1 is that we should have an abundant, affordable housing stock. Goal number 2, there should be sufficient housing for people experiencing homelessness. Goal number 3, there should be housing stability and opportunities to build wealth for all residents. Goal number 4 is that we should have healthy, thriving neighborhoods with access to good jobs, good schools, transportation, and other amenities. And this should be for everybody. And I also want to note here that this is part of the new version of affirmatively furthering fair housing, to make sure that all residences' experience outside their homes is decent and safe, no matter where they live in the city. And so, related to that, goal number 5, there should be racially and socially inclusive neighborhoods that overcome past and present discrimination. Here again, fair housing law and the housing element law tells us that jurisdictions need to redress past discrimination, overcome patterns of segregation, and make our communities more inclusive places where all types of people live, especially those in protected classes. And the city tested these goals in the course of our community outreach, receiving input on these proposed goals in public meetings and in a community-wide survey. So flowing from the goals that we discussed in the last slide, the housing element includes over 127 recommended policies and programs. Many of these programs and policies are things that the city is already doing or have already been proposed and approved by council. So, as an example, including for over 50% of the programs and policies are about advancing what we in housing call the 3 Ps. The first P is for production. So of the 127 strategies, there are over 40 production strategies related to both market rate and affordable housing. For example, there's a program recommendation about developing a middle density housing strategy. The second P is for preservation, and there are 11 preservation strategies in the housing element. For example, issuing a regular preservation notice of funding availability. The third is protection. There are approximately 20 protection-related strategies, for example, that we should evaluate a right to counsel program and program alternatives for that. The policies and programs also reflect the state of California's requirements and recommendations for what should be covered in the housing element, and this includes reducing barriers for housing production. This, of course, is related to the first P of production, but just an example here, there's a recommendation, there's a program for expanding city ministerial streamlining approvals for infill housing with at least 20% affordable units. Another goal that the state of California wants to see from the housing element is that there are increased housing choices. And so, for example, here, there's a program about looking to advocate at the state and federal levels for increased funding for vouchers. And finally, to lessen the effects of segregation, which is, as I talked about, is part of the new state requirement for the housing element to affirmatively further fair housing. And more on this in the next slide. So affirmatively furthering fair housing is about how we are going to proactively address factors which contribute to our city's segregation. Big picture, through racist policies like redlining, communities of color have been denied equitable opportunities to build wealth, and many of our recent and current policies and practices have continued existing patterns of segregation. And this is something the city has been complicit in. Of course, not the only actor, but moving forward, our housing policies should seek to redress past wrongs and to ensure that we do not continue these wrongs. As one example of how the housing element would increase access to higher resource areas is that the housing element includes continued implementation of the siting policy, the affordable housing siting policy, to incentivize more affordable housing development in high resource areas, and also that current or planned growth areas like North San Jose and the Diridon Station area include affordable housing development. Next bullet is to redress current and historic patterns of inequitable investment across the city. The housing element contains policy recommendations for increasing public investment in formerly redlined areas. For the third bullet on the slide, displacement. Displacement is in and of itself a fair housing issue in that displacement disproportionately harms people of color, and that there's a high correlation between neighborhoods experiencing displacement and neighborhoods that were redlined. So to address displacement, the housing element incorporates most of the policies and programs that were passed by the City Council and through the citywide anti-displacement strategy. Another effect of our ongoing conditions of racial inequity is that there are racial disparities in who is unhoused. Among other policies and programs addressing homelessness, the housing element recommends evaluation of racial bias in the shelter and supportive housing systems and increased participation of persons with lived experience of homelessness in housing policy decision-making. For the next bullet, lack of access for persons with disabilities. As I mentioned in our community outreach to members of protected classes, we heard often from people with disabilities about how hard it is to find housing that is physically accessible. So the housing element includes recommendations to advance universal design principles as one example. Finally, as part of our outreach and engagement, we also heard about ongoing discrimination in our housing market, including especially around source of income and immigration status. So the housing element therefore includes provisions around ongoing anti-discrimination, education, and enforcement. So thank you, and I'll pass the presentation to Jared.
Good evening, Jared Ferguson with the Office of Economic Development. A major component of our housing element is identifying and analyzing both governmental and non-governmental constraints on the maintenance, improvement, and development of housing at all income levels in the city. This component is included in Chapter 4 of our draft. We've outlined here a few of the key areas identified and analyzed. While there are many variables in the production of housing, construction costs in recent years have been the most significant constraint on the supply of housing in San Jose. Construction costs have increased 17% in the Bay Area since the spring of 2020. Since 2014, the total increase has been 76%. Affordable housing has been constrained by the level of subsidy funds available. The competition for a limited amount of tax credits and other funding sources has increased significantly recently, making it more challenging for projects to obtain funds to start construction. For market rate housing, financing has generally been available. However, rising interest rates in 2022, combined with rising construction costs, has made the availability of financing more challenging. Opposition to new housing development can lead to longer review periods or result in material changes to development. This can result in increased costs and reductions in the numbers of units being built. These delays and costs can be considered a constraint on housing. The city collects fees and taxes from new residential development to finance and expand public infrastructure such as parks and to cover the cost of processing permits. Based on our analysis, San Jose's fees and taxes are in line with other jurisdictions in the area and do not represent an undue constraint on housing. However, since this is a key area that the city directly controls, we have included programs and policies in the housing element related to taxes and fees. Lastly, the preparation of urban village plans requires significant staff resources and planning. Since adoption of the GP in 2011, 14 urban village areas have been planned. While housing can proceed in unplanned villages through multiple GP policies, completed urban village plans can better help facilitate residential development. Staff has outlined several programs within the housing element to address this identified constraint. It is important to note that all opportunity sites in the inventory that we will discuss in the next slides currently allow for housing and can proceed regardless of whether they are in a planned or unplanned urban village. This table lists the different categories we use to meet our RHNA requirement. State law allows us to use approved housing projects already in the pipeline, anticipated ADU development, and anticipated development on opportunity sites. Opportunity sites are our largest category, and they are the focus of this section. To hedge against the risks of projects not being developed as we anticipate, the unit capacity of our inventory is more than what is required by RENA, with a total buffer of 37% on the opportunity sites. The methodology we used to identify opportunity sites included sites consistent with the GP 2040 that already allow for housing. This means that outside of North San Jose, all sites we identified as opportunity sites can move forward with housing now. They have the appropriate general plan designation and zoning to facilitate housing. Even those sites within unplanned urban villages. To further refine the site's inventory, staff filtered for parcels that had characteristics more conducive to development based upon the experience in the past planning period. While the exact methods varied by location, they generally include filtering out properties that had existing multifamily uses, had existing planning permits issued within the last 4 years, had building permits issued for new construction in the last 8 years, and were smaller than half an acre. To calculate a realistic capacity of the site selected, staff leveraged the building blocks platform from Ptolemy that is the basis of the city's current San Jose Housing Site Explorer. This tool integrates data from various city systems such as zoning, general plan designations, urban village boundaries, allowable density and floor area ratios, historic parcel level factors into a map-based analytical and data modeling tool. Using this tool and its analysis, staff was able to determine the estimated capacity of sites based on the existing conditions of the sites and how each matched with properties and developments that have been built in the city during the previous cycle. The site inventory must identify sites to accommodate housing development throughout the city in a manner that affirmatively furthers fair housing opportunities. HCD has advised that this means that sites identified to accommodate the lower income portion of the RENA should not be concentrated in lower resource areas as defined by the state's opportunity maps. And with that, I'll pass it back to Ruth.
Quick question. Out of curiosity, will this be in about 3 sections, or is it going to be more? It seems like, one speaker carried one section. Okay, because there's just so much content, right? So if I had done this before, I think I would have stopped after the first presenter, paused to see if we have questions. Next, pause to have questions on these really complex items. Let me get a consensus of the commission. Would you rather have this in bite-sized morsels or have them present and do everything at the end? What's preference?
Well, I think it's almost done, right? Is it?
Well, fair enough, but let me hear from the commission. If commissioners, would you prefer all done, or you want to take it in pieces?
Next time, I think I would like it in pieces so we could do a deeper dive on each section.
Okay,
Yeah.
but for now, just continue.
Let's finish for now.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so this slide outlines the changes that we've made to the draft since December 2022 and in response to HCD's first comment letter. The slide summarizes the changes, which include supplementary inventory analysis and non-vacant site capacity analysis, providing more detailed metrics and milestones to the programs discussed in Chapter 3 of the housing element. And we also completed minor technical changes, such as adding more countywide and regional demographic data, again, in response to HCD's comments. And this slide just shows next steps. We have a hearing scheduled with the Housing and Community Development Commission on June 8th and City Council's adoption hearing on June 20th. And we hope to submit the HCD for certification as soon as possible after the hearing. And that's it for us.
Oh, you meant 2 slides. I thought there were still 2.
No, no.
Oh, okay, got it, okay.
Yeah.
2 slides, no big deal. All right, well, let's start with members of the public that are gathered here in the chambers. Speaking time will be 1 minute. Call you to come down. Feel free to line up on the stairs. We have Kenneth Doe, Renee Baez, and Josefina Aguiar. Come on down in any order. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Josefina Aguilar. I am the Executive Director of the South Bay Community Land Trust, the first and only land trust in San Jose. And I'm here basically to talk about, well, let me tell you our mission. We basically acquire properties, take them off the speculative market, protect tenants from displacement, and then we do rehab or repairs, and then we commit to affordability in perpetuity for that community that is never resold. So basically, we're here because we have filed a complaint with the Housing and Community Development Department of the state because even though we've seen all these statistics, now, unlike many years, I'm an urban planner of over 35 years. Oh my goodness, we only have 1 minute. Anyway, the reason we're opposing it is because there's all this community input, but now these resources, the tools, have been taken out of the toolbox. So you can say you're going to do all these things, but if there's no money and no policies, like COPA's already been killed, there's also now this raid on Measure E funds.
Sure.
So we're going all the way to the state and to the Attorney General's office with this petition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commissioner. My name is Kenneth Doe. I'm with the Carpenters Union at Local 5 in San Jose. I'm a member of District 6, and I'm, active in the community and the church, and that's why I'm proud to come up and present this. So you guys talked about protection. Under protection, I was thinking that they should protect local hire. I want to introduce you what Redwood City did in their 2023 housing element. This is on page 49, policy 5.7. It encouraged developers and contractors to elevate hiring local labor, hiring from a apprenticeship program, increase labor compliance, and provide a livable wage. And in Menlo Park, this is page 8, goal H7.1. Encourage developer and contractors to elevate hiring local labor, hiring from a contributing apprenticeship, increasing labor compliance, and providing a living wage.
Thank you.
And
yes, good evening, Chair, Planning Commissioner, staff. Thank you for all your hard work on the housing element. My name is Renee Baez, and I'm a field representative for the Carpenters Union. And today I want to speak about 3 simple things which will benefit the housing element in San Jose. And that is 1, the use of apprenticeship programs, meaning every worker is trained to do the work correctly and also safely. Number 2 is health care for workers and their families. And number 3 is local hire. I understand that construction costs have went up. I understand that. And we need the housing. We need affordable housing. But if you don't require local hire in your housing element, you get workers from out of town, out of state, and developers that come in, make that money, and then take it back to their place, meaning we don't get the tax dollars. So therefore, as we don't require those things, we're losing money. So if we implement that kind of language, local hire, health care for the workers, that means the health care that the company pays, us as residents don't have to pay for those workers, right? And so the money in, money out. So if we can implement some kind of labor language in that housing element, it'll benefit the great city of San Jose.
Thank you very much. And let's see here, we have ASHWK. Can't really read the writing on this one. We have Kelly Snyder, and we have David Jacques. Any order is fine. Are you David?
Yes, I am.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you all, and thank you. I wear many hats, one of which is a property manager, and I have a property that's listed here that is an active strip mall. So my concern is the data set, the non-vacant sites, and the feasibility of really converting them and creating or displacing jobs. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
And out of curiosity, the address?
That would be on Sierra by Piedmont High School.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, Chair Oliverio and Commissioners. Much of this is complicated. Here's an easy one for you. On page 3-8 of the draft housing element before you tonight, in the column titled Strategies, strategy P-11 says, I'll read it, examine allowing SB 9 type projects to properties zoned R2 two-family. Please direct staff to simply expand the definition of eligibility for SB 9 projects to literally include all the zoned R2 properties in the city. They have been zoned R2 since 2010, the original adoption of the Envision 2040. And furthermore, the way staff currently determines whether or not you get the R2 two-family is through a bunch of squishy language, which is not objective, is completely subject to an interpretation by low-level planners, including words such as slightly higher density, slightly lower density, and all of this can be found on page 5-15 of the city's general plan, which is what staff uses in their denials. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's now go to the web meeting. Who's ever administering the web meeting? Hands raised.
Catherine, please unmute your device.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Hedges. I'm a downtown resident in affordable housing, and I come to a lot of these meetings. I've been involved in affordable housing advocacy since 2016, and I agree with the previous speakers' concerns, but overall, I think the housing department has put in an amazing effort for a very good housing element and the effort that went on public input sessions as well. And I realize that the city does not actually build housing to meet the housing element goals. They're just trying to get out of the way of developers. However, these goals will not be achieved without adequate affordable housing funding. Voters approved Measure E in 2022, and council voted in a spending plan that, as I recall, supports the descriptions in the housing element. So this makes me extremely concerned that the mayor's proposal to zero out Measure E funding for permanent supportive housing and other permanent affordable housing will prevent us from reaching actual production goals. Developers can leverage our funding into 5 times as many funds from other sources.
Thank you.
Allie, please unmute your device.
Hi, my name is Allie Saperman. I am a downtown resident, but I'm also calling on behalf of the Housing Action Coalition. You should have received a letter from myself and Greenbelt Alliance, Jordan Grimes. And the crux of our letter is based on the lack of public transparency. We feel as if we have not had enough time to adequately respond to the new draft element, which we referenced in our letter. We've flagged some big concerns that we've noticed in this latest draft, which leads us to believe that HCD will not certify this housing element if submitted as is. The housing element is no longer a paper exercise. We're working on housing elements all across the state, and we're seeing that the punishments are steep if we don't get this right. This is really important we get right. We lay it out in our letter, so I'm going to finish my comment for tonight, but thank you for your work on this. Understand it's a difficult task, and we think we need more time in order to properly do that task. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our speakers.
Okay, I thought there'd be a lot more. Well, maybe people tune in later. Okay, now it's back to commission, and I'm curious, could we at slide 1, maybe go to that slide, see what questions commissioners have, then move on to the next slide, so we're kind of all, progressing.
And then afterwards, general discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. Or you can ask, yeah, sure, certainly, but if your question pertains to what's on that slide, feel free to ask it then, I think. So let's go to here, let's see here. Oh, that's not.
Chair, while the staff is setting this up, might I suggest that they explain what the term arena is for the members of the public?
Absolutely. How about that?
Thanks, Commissioner. RHNA is Regional Housing Needs Allocation, and that is the allocation in terms of housing units that we receive from HCD. That is our goal for building affordable housing, and it's, it's this table. And it's broken up in terms of affordability levels.
Okay. So should we start from this slide here? Great. Quick question. What percentage of local government entities achieved their arena goals? I understand I think it's 6, but I just want to clarify that one. 6%.
I know when an infamous city is Beverly Hills that has reached their arena goals, but Michael, do you know that number?
I don't know. Last I heard in the last housing element, it was only Beverly Hills because they built 9 nanny units and they only had a low-income arena number of 9 low-income units. Yeah. Which is one of the reasons this housing element this time around is very different. There's a lot of criticism on that. But I will say so, most cities, including San Jose, meet their above moderate, their market rate. Other than maybe one or a couple, nobody meets their low income RHNA goal.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? Maybe I'll go to the list here. Commissioner Cantrell.
Yeah, I know this is tough. I know that this is difficult for communities to meet these standards. And even if we go through this process, there's let's be honest, there's no guarantee this is actually going to happen. But I think we have to try as hard as we can to get this as right as we can. I look at the low to very low income range and see 24%, and I think about the community and what portion of the community this actually covers in reality. Do we spend much time actually adjusting what we call an equity lens by looking through it and measuring what's there and what our intended impact is on that communities or those communities? I never really see any evidence of that. Is there any evidence of that in this plan?
Commissioner, I think that one of the state requirements is that we use an equity lens, at least in this.
Where's that lens?
I mean, we are looking at where affordable housing has been located, throughout the city, and patterns of where it's been located, and we have policies to more evenly distribute affordable housing across the city. So this time through, we took a very conscious equity lens. We looked at patterns of investment and lack of investment, not just across different types of public and private investment as well, and and found correlation between communities of color. Historically redlined communities have had lower levels of investment than than other communities. Okay. And so we have some policies to try and, in the small ways that we have control of that, because this is this is much bigger than the city. This is also like private investments. This is where mortgage lending has gone historically through the city. It's not just about like things that the city has control over, but for some of the pots of funding that we have, like CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, we're looking to put incentives into our processes to be able to, for more of that funding to go to communities where there's been historic disinvestment or underinvestment.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a view of that lens from my perspective. So, my personal disability is I was trained as an economist, so I see data and I have to look further. I have to try to understand it. Over the last 30 years, the African American community here consistently loses population. That's an equity lens. Let's look at that population. Where is it going? The population of unhoused continues to increase for African Americans. And by putting these words on these slides, we have no earmarks. We have no way of actually affecting equity for those people who cannot be counted or will not be counted or will not be heard. I don't think that what we say we're going to do here is going to solve this problem. As a matter of fact, my own estimate, and an estimate of an AI that I used as well, estimates that in Santa Clara County, within 35 to 50 years, African Americans will no longer be statistically relevant. That's an equity lens. This is important. And I don't think that we spend enough time looking at those realities and making them change. There are no earmarks. There are no guarantees. There are only words on a slide.
Okay, and then are we still on that first slide, or where did you progress us to? Okay. Did you move the slide because of the okay. So I saw Commissioner Tordillos.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to also step back and put some of these numbers in kind of a larger context. We can see that between the very low income and the low income allocations that we've received for the coming cycle, it looks like we're being asked to plan for more units of low and very low income housing over the next 8 years than we've managed to build total housing over the previous 8 years. I think that we do need a bit of a reset in terms of how we view these strategies if we're ever going to actually start to affect the sorts of changes that we need to see in terms of our housing policy. And just to provide some more historical context, it's been already mentioned that cities don't generally meet their low-income RHNA targets. But looking at San Jose's history, it looks like in the fourth cycle between 2007 and 2014, we missed our RHNA goal by about 50%. And in the most recent fifth cycle that just wrapped up in January, we missed our target by over 40%, including a shortfall of 12,000 low and very low income units and about 3,600 moderate income units. So in sum, that means that we're effectively being asked to build 10 times as much low and very low income housing over the next 8 years as we've managed to over the previous. So I do think we just need to kind of have that reset in mind as we kind of hopefully push for more aggressive strategies to actually start to make progress on our low income allocations.
Can be a good data download for Meet the Press on Sunday morning. Commissioner Ornelas-Wise.
Can I just respond to that? So I think the biggest, so again, this process is about planning to show you can accommodate these numbers. We don't, for the most part, build housing in San Jose, so their goals and how we can accommodate that. The real challenge of affordable housing, the biggest challenge, is the money. And I don't know if Josh can talk about that, but the biggest barrier to building affordable is money. You need government subsidies to build it, and it's probably in the trillions of dollars, and in the Bay Area, California at least. And so I think that's the challenge. On the positive side, San Jose voters passed Measure E, which I think is a fairly unique measure that has contributed to more money than we had in the past for affordable. I think it's just about 50 million a year or so, maybe it's 100 million, I can't remember, but it actually exceeds what the redevelopment agency used to provide for affordable housing before it went away. And then Measure A, which is pretty much capped out at this point, was another big source of funding. So one of the big things I think we need to think about is how do we identify funding for more affordable.
Okay, Commissioner Ornelas-Wise.
Just to piggyback on what was said right now in regards to, financing affordable housing, and I think with the anticipated interest rates going high, that challenge might increase even more. However, why not recycle and reuse existing buildings that we have and convert them to house our poor? I know that there seems to be a high vacancy with some commercial, maybe changing those land use designations to mixed live work zoning in units. So that's something that I think that we can do a better job with recycling and reusing what we have. I mean, this is Silicon Valley. This is where like the most innovation comes from, right? That changes like the way we function worldwide. So I think that we could set an example of allowing people to get really creative by changing policy to make it easier for people to convert existing spaces to better use. I know that there's been, I know down the Monterey corridor, there's some housing that has ground floor retail that's been vacant for a very long time that I've seen. And because of that, it's the windows got smashed and now it's all fenced. And it's been vacant and very nice for a whole, like, I don't know, 2 years, 3, like, and yet there's people living on the street. Like, why not convert these spaces to something like housing or live-work situations? I'd really like to see some policy around that. And of course, if SB 9, came down from the state at the local level, it was really meant to help ease things, to make it easier for people to build. So we should not make it harder, but make it easier for people that want to build in their own backyard. I definitely believe that. In regards to pipeline
And Commissioner, real quick, as we were advancing through the slides, no problem. So it's pertinent to this one.
Yeah, I also wanted to, the workforce. Does the city have the workforce to accommodate? I feel like there's not enough planning staff or resources in the housing department. So I'd really, suggest to the city council or, to really hire more, even if you have to subcontract to other people that plan check or whatever you got to do to help streamline the process for folks that want to come in and build, including the mom and pop people, because it all adds up, right? In regards to community engagement, I saw the list and it was really nice. Of course, I had the privilege working at the Santa Clara County Planning Office to work on the housing element, and we went into the jungle. We went in there. And so I want to know if you went into the streets. Did you talk to the people that live in the parked RVs, parked throughout the city, in the camps, the children that are living in parked cars in the city parks, students that are living in college campus parking lots? Because I think this needs to be addressed, and it's really important. So those are my comments for now.
Does staff don't want to answer the outreach question, at least?
On the outreach side, we did do some persons with lived experience of homelessness outreach. We tried to do that in community centers that are located near known encampments, and in times of day, when people are not looking to hunker down. So, in the afternoon before it starts getting dark. So we did have some persons with lived experience focus groups as part of our outreach.
And then if I could just respond to the first comment around kind of the conversion of commercial space to housing. We do have areas where it is allowable, such as in downtown. I think, what some of our research has led us to that we've found is that it can be hard to convert office buildings because of their configurations, often make it cost prohibitive, but it is something we're interested to learn more about. But that can be really the challenge is not so much on our end in terms of the actual zoning of the building, but really in kind of the financing of it.
Yeah, there's also state laws. So, I think the general plan framework particularly allows for affordable housing, allows in urban villages and even commercial properties outside of urban village, it allows them with certain criteria to be converted to residential for if it's affordable. So we do have that. And there isn't a requirement that affordable housing provides commercial. So there is that opportunity to convert, at least in an affordable project, the unused commercial space to affordable housing. And again, there's the state laws have been passed right now that are going to allow a lot more opportunities. AB 2011. We're going to have an info memo that Martina is working on that will go out in next month, and that has a lot more information about state law changes that will facilitate affordable and just housing in general.
Okay, we're going to go on to Commissioner Barroso. I personally don't have any questions on this slide, so I'm waiting. So, Commissioner Barroso.
Perfect, thank you. I'll keep mine brief because I know we got a lot of slides to go through. In regards to the comments on we should really be focusing on low income and the very low income because that is a hard road to hit. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the fund that developers pay into when they don't opt in to build affordable housing, what happens to that money? Does that money get earmarked to improve those numbers? And if not, please share with us what we can do to maybe leverage that money to help improve the numbers around very low income and low income. Thank you.
So market rate developers, if they don't provide 15% of affordable units on site, are required to pay our inclusionary housing ordinance in lieu fee, and that funding goes directly to subsidize other affordable low-income units.
In terms of building, or are they like Section 8 vouchers? Can you say a little bit more about how that looks like?
It's funding to subsidize new construction of units.
Okay. And in your analysis, do you think it would be timely to, and I don't know if it was done out of the 137, I believe, proposed plans and policies, is that program being looked at? Is it working? Is it something that is easy to pay into, but the return on investment isn't impacting the target areas as the spirit of this program, I think, is geared towards?
It is part of the overall, the overall list of programs and policies to continue the inclusionary housing. I think that, one thing that we'd like to look at going into the future is how to have the proper incentives that more developers actually build the inclusionary housing on site as part of their development versus paying the in lieu fees. But that's an ongoing thing that staff would be looking at.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Commissioner Young, on this slide.
Just a process question, I guess, Chair. I have sort of a general question, but I'm not sure it's on this slide. So would you like me to wait, or?
I was thinking that we would go through each slide, have our discussion on each slide, hear from each other, not necessarily have to repeat or whatever. And then at the end, we can do whatever general synopsis questions, things that weren't covered on a slide, personal commentary, et cetera.
Great. I'll defer then. Thanks.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. I'm going to clear my list, see if anyone has any questions for this slide. I don't see any, so maybe go to the next slide. Oh, well, here we go. Commissioner Cantrell, excellent.
I'm curious if you guys were able to, this looks like a lot of community input. Were you able to map this input back to changes that you may have made?
We took a lot of the input and used it to make the policies themselves, or to rate and rank the policies too. We had some rating and ranking exercises that groups went through. So sort of like what ended up on the list to some extent reflects community input. We definitely made some of the changes based on comment letters and other community input. So, we have a little bit of that mapped out. Part of what we want to do, before we submit to council and the state, is to do a little bit better job of mapping some of that out. But we did take the, community input very seriously, and use it both in the formation and in the rating and ranking, and in and some revisions afterwards too.
Just add to that a little bit. We do in chapter 1, we do map that out, and also in chapter 3 in the list of programs, there's also a column that kind of lists the where the source of the program came from, like what groups in particular, requested or commented on
Was that limited?
that program. What's that?
It was that limited? That was what was in chapter 1 was where you outlined it may have come from this or that. That was about it. Seems like a lot of folks, seems like a lot of feedback that you would have gotten, that it would be a catalog, to be frank.
We did map some of the changes in chapter 1. So when we talk about, for example, the surveys or the more formal meetings, the focus groups, there is some outline there. But also in chapter 3, we do have a column. For chapter 3 is programs and policies. There's a column that identifies where that specific policy or program idea may have come from. Sometimes it's like statutory, we have to do it.
Right.
Other times it was identified by specific populations.
So we have, for every 127 policies, we have rows across, and then one column is community input that we received on that, or who endorsed or suggested that idea.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Larnois on this slide?
Yeah. Am I right in understanding in chapter 1 that there have not been any further community engagement meetings since the first submittal?
I believe that's correct. I'm sorry. I'm blanking on.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, our strategy kind of going in was really to front load the community outreach so that it could really inform our programs, as we talked about, so that the development would really be, based upon that input that we had received through all of those meetings. So that was kind of intentional on our part in how it was all designed.
Gotcha.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, though, that once the draft was out and then the second draft, right, that we do send out emails and notifications to let people know that it's out and available for review, and so we would get additional comments when we did put the draft out. So it's not like a lot of the hardcore outreach and really intense happened at the beginning, but it's not like that was the end of it. It's been going on throughout the whole process.
And we had extensive letters from both rounds of releasing drafts, and which are also posted on the website. But we have emails, and we've had some people who call us and talk to us as well. I mean, we haven't had the public meeting, but we've been deeply engaged with stakeholders.
I will note, too, that HCER reviewer Chelsea actually has these comment letters, right? And so a lot of her feedback was based on reviewing the letters and then reviewing our strategies and giving us input based on the input that we received from the public.
And then on this one, I have one question, since we had a public speaker comment that, hey, my property, there's being some change to it. Does the planning department reach out to every property owner, either phone, letter, et cetera, that we're doing the housing element and your parcel is going to have a different color on the map?
We did not reach out to each individual property owner. We have roughly 437 sites on the inventory. And designating a site on the site inventory doesn't automatically mean that only housing can go there. It's showing HCD that housing can be built here. There's a path forward for it, but it doesn't commit a property owner to building the site, building housing there.
Yeah, that's ultimately the property owner's decision whether they want to build housing. The other thing I think it's really important to highlight that gets to responding to this comment is that a lot of cities in the Bay Area had a huge increase in their RENA, their allocation for housing. San Jose did not. We have the second largest absolute number of units, right? Because we're the biggest city in the Bay Area. Only San Francisco got more, they got more than us. But as a percentage increase, we got off relatively light. I can talk about that if you want, why that is. And so we have our existing general plan framework can accommodate our 77,000 housing units. So there are no general plan changes that you are considering to people's property. So if there were general plan changes that we were proposing to people's property for housing, we would have informed them on that. This is really more of an exercise to show that within our existing general plan, that we have sites that meet the criteria that we've identified and the state has told us we need to use, that we can accommodate the RENA allocation of 77,000 housing units, or 62,000, excuse me.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Barroso on the topic of outreach.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. This is my second of 3 questions, and I know they're back to back. A question around the outreach. We did have two members from local labor come out, and my question is, well, I'm assuming that they're captured here, right? Are there a small focus group, a tabling event, or something? Is there something that changed because of comments from labor? And if so, if you can highlight those. And at the same time, if they're not explicitly stated with words like encourage local labor, apprenticeship, stuff like that, how far are we from that kind of language, adopting that kind of language? What are the pros and cons in terms of a city doing that, not doing that? So those are my 2-part questions. Thank you.
Yes, we have engaged with the carpenters and had several meetings with them. And, you know, it's something we did consider in development of the programs. You know, we did talk to them about, you know, for our affordable projects that receive city funding, you know, prevailing wage is a requirement. And there are other standards applied to those projects. The city has been continuing to develop its wage theft ordinance and other workforce standards as well. And so, you know, we've discussed those programs with them, and something that we're, you know, continuing to follow and consider as part of this.
And in terms of putting something on paper, like I think San Mateo or Redwood City, I forget the cities they quoted, are we ready for a line like that? City of San Jose encourages this and this and this from developers, and if not, obviously, you know, I'm learning today. Is that a language that gets a city in trouble or limits certain projects? What are some unintended consequences if we explicitly put it out there? And if not, if there's no real danger or consequence, how far are we from maybe including that? And I don't know if the city attorney or the director can help with this level question.
It's something that we can consider, and there's no concerns that have been expressed from HCD in terms of adding those. So, you know, we can take the feedback and consider that language as moving forward, if that's something that the commission wishes to, you know, ask us to do.
And I would say that's something you would, if you want to do that, you should pass that on to City Council, because this is sort of a larger issue that gets beyond just the housing element that the City Council has, you know, taken under consideration in the past. I think ultimately it would be up to them to sort of set some direction on that. So that's the kind of matter that if it's of interest to the commission, you can add that to your passing it along in your recommendation to City Council.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide. Okay, any questions on this slide?
Yeah, Commissioner Young, I do have, I believe it's from this slide. So from page 18 on the staff report, there's just a acronym that I wasn't familiar with, and it was Preservation, NOFA, NOFA. I just was wondering if you could explain that.
I'm sorry, I should have spelled that out. That's a notice of funding availability. So it's it's when the housing department, for example, has funds that we want to use to contribute to affordable housing development. In this case, it would be acquisition and rehab of an existing apartment building. We make, public when we have an application process for that funding, we make a public notice that the funds are available so that applicants can apply. And it's a notice of funding availability is what the acronym stands for, and it's related to, public subsidy of affordable housing in this case.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Cantrell.
Just going to take issue with, again, the words on this slide where you say you will address affordability and displacement, will address homelessness, will address racial, ethnic, and segregation. These are really strong words because honestly, I don't think you're going to move the needle. We have no history of that. It feels like we're taking an act of a work of fantasy and trying to create reality in the words that we use to frame it. And I just take issue with that. I don't think we're going to address these issues. I think you're going to attempt to do something and hopefully change it. But I think we're framing this with the wrong language.
Commissioner Rosario, was that someone else? Or Commissioner Rosario?
Sure. This is my first time going through the housing element. I've been on this commission since July of last year and, working to try and get up to speed the best that I can. But every single graph that I've seen of our goals as a city with regards to housing, I don't think I've seen one where we exceeded or met our goals. I think Commissioner Tordillos, had a good point there. I think in the letter from HCD, they even point out this is what our goal for ADUs are, but we think this is unrealistic. Commissioner Cantrell right now, he gave his opinion saying he thinks this is unrealistic. I guess my question is sort of why do all of these projections seem to fall short? And I know that's not an easy question, and I appreciate all of the work that you do. And maybe the chair may know more than I or Mr. Brio, but it just seems like every single chart that I've seen for the last however long, and I've been watching Planning Commission meetings since 2019, always falls short. So when I read this, it's like, well, should I divide this number by 10? I don't know. And it just seems tough to me to be able to interpret things like that when it seems like it's always incorrect. Does that make sense?
Sure, it makes sense. Maybe I can just back up a second and address something that Commissioner Cantrell said. So, your point is well taken. I don't think the use of the word address meant to, in the sense to solve, or to, I think address was meant to address as in to speak to, but not address as in to be the final, to be the end all be all. I think everything you said is exactly true. We don't have the resources dedicated to do everything that to solve these problems, and it is addressing in the sense of as you were speaking about, like attempting to mitigate, attempting to do something. So if it communicated you to that it was the intention is to solve everything, that was not the intent. And then Commissioner Rosario, just to build on what Deputy Director Brio was talking about. One of the fundamental things, it's like kind of the elephant in the room that we say, but maybe we don't say it in a way that sinks in enough, is that there is a structural mismatch across the whole state in terms of what the needs are and what the resources available are, in terms of what the funding available is. So affordable housing is not possible to build without public subsidy. It just won't financially work without some level of public subsidy. And one of the main sources of public subsidy for affordable housing is the low-income housing tax credit, which essentially ends up functioning like equity within an affordable housing development. And if you look at in the state of California, there's a state agency called the Tax Credit Allocation Committee, which allocates the low-income housing tax credit. They have, if you look at like the total RHNA goals for the whole state, just add that all together, and then you add up all the low-income housing tax credits that the state has to allocate, you know, that gets to maybe 15% of the total RHNA allocation. So, you know, that's like a structural statewide funding reason why almost every jurisdiction is short of its RHNA goals, because any jurisdiction that has any kind of scale for producing affordable housing is not going to be able to get enough money from the state to be able to produce that housing. And that's true across federal funds, local funds. You know, there's just not enough public subsidy to complete all the affordable housing that we need to complete. So, you know, we do a lot of things about creating the right planning conditions, the right policy conditions to be able to have affordable housing. We create incentives, and so we do most of the things that we can do without putting in more money. But one of the fundamental problems is we just don't have that money.
Just something to add real quick on top of that, not, you know, with the lack of subsidy dollars is also complicated by the increasing costs of construction, because then it means those limited dollars that we do have don't go as far and can fund less units with those increases in costs.
Good, Commissioner Rosario?
No, I appreciate that candid answer. It seems to confuse me why the state, I'm assuming understands this, would expect cities like San Jose to put this much time and effort in to something that seems like most folks in most cities understand is not going to work.
I might be able to answer why they do that. I think it's so they want to make sure that you have lots of opportunities for affordable housing, and particularly that you have those opportunities in high resources communities. You're not just playing in low income neighborhoods that concentrate, you know, disadvantaged and poor people. And but you don't know that property owners are going to want to sell their property to an affordable housing developer. You don't know if it's going to work out for that developer. It's kind of like when you go into a clothing store to buy a suit. You don't want to have, you know, one suit to choose from. You want a selection of suits because you don't know if that one's going to work for you, or that one they'll sell it to you for whatever reason. So you have to have sort of a wider portfolio of opportunities, so that by having that, you can ensure that you're going to start building affordable housing. If you got to the actual reality of what you could build and identify sites to that exact number, like San Jose. Josh, do you know, like, how many affordable housing units like historically would we build in 8 years in San Jose?
We built like close to 25% of our RHNA allocation in the last cycle.
So is that like 15,000 units or so? So you want to have more than those 15,000 sites. You want to have a lot more than that. So you have, because again, that gentleman that came up says, well, I don't know that we want to develop our strip mall into housing. Whoops, well, that one's not going to work now. So that's sort of the rationale, I think, from the state of why they give you a big number and you plan for it, if that helps.
No, thank you. Good. Commissioner Ornelas-Wise on this slide.
Well, just this conversation that we're having now, it really makes me think about, you know, you just mentioned incentives, what the city could do as providing incentives. One of the things that I actually been thinking about for a while was reclaiming land, right? For example, maybe as an incentive, the city can map out city land that can be donated maybe to an affordable housing developer. So that could help subsidize the cost. And when I'm talking about donating land, That includes streets that are like cul-de-sacs that have no end, or like that don't keep going forward. Every time I pass through Center Road and I see History Park, and there's like a restaurant, and there's like the old baby food, and across the street there's the entrance into the historic part, and then there's like this wide street, and then there's the creek, and it kind of dead ends, and that's such a waste of land. To me, I think like, wow, you need to reclaim that space, either convert it to a park, but in this particular case, really work in collaboration as an incentive, because San Jose is large. It's like the largest city, right, in Santa Clara County, I believe. So we have a lot of land, right? So we need to leverage our resources and maybe as an incentive, do these land donations where we, where we have an easement for a street, turn that dead-end street into potential space to grow affordable housing, to build affordable housing. So I think that would be an incentive that could be added in a policy of some sort, because I think that we can't do it alone. We need a partnership with the local tech, with Santa Clara County, with developers. So I think that would be a good incentive.
Thank you, Commissioner Young.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Since we're talking about funding, I just wanted to maybe provide another perspective. So on page 6 of the staff report, it talks about $4.8 billion in city subsidies. Is that, maybe Michael, I'll direct this question to you. Is that over the 8-year period for the?
I'll direct that back to the housing element team. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, that's a theoretical amount of what it would cost to build or to subsidize the total RENA amount for affordable housing. It's not what the city has.
Understood.
Per our conversation.
Right. Okay.
But it's an estimate of what it would take.
Right. Understood. Just for a frame of reference, could you tell me like what amount of city subsidy we might have in the past fiscal year, just kind of to give us a frame of reference? It doesn't have to be exact, but just ballpark.
I mean, we have on the order of tens of millions, something less than 100 million in the past year. I don't remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact number. I can look it up, but I don't have it at top of mind.
So orders of magnitude difference.
Right.
It's orders of magnitude difference.
That's what I was going to say. So I think it's important to bring some perspective into this conversation. And it goes back to what Michael Brio said. It's a money problem, right? To meet our RENA goals, we would need $4.8 billion, and our city can afford to have tens of millions of dollars. So that's a huge problem. And it's not a problem we here on this commission or the city council can solve. It's a federal problem, a state problem. It's a resourcing problem, right? So I just wanted to bring that up for perspective. Thanks.
Thank you. And that 4.8 billion, that would assume everything got built today versus inflated future dollars because housing takes years and years to come online.
Yeah, it's the estimate of what it basically costs the city now.
Right.
Times the number of units. So it's a pretty rough calculation.
But it's a number, and to the point, it gives magnitude where we're probably spending 1.5% of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, just a little bit of that 4.8 is for the whole 8-year period versus like the other numbers of 1-year period. So it's like 8 times the 1 year. But
okay.
It's still orders of magnitude. It's still an order of magnitude off.
But that's $60 million a year, according to my calculator. So that's
no ballpark here.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually a classic case of market failure, right? Back in different markets and different places, the regular old housing market provided all kinds of housing, and that for all different levels of income, and there wasn't the need for the subsidy. But because of the time we live in, the place we live in, the economy we're in, the most expensive market probably on the planet, or at least one of them, if not, we have these challenges that we have not experienced at other times in our history, and other city communities are experiencing now in certain parts of the world, right? So it's a market failure.
Commissioner Lardenois?
Yeah, Commissioner Young, I think it's actually 600 million, not 60. But also, if I recall from the staff report, just I want to confirm this, that 4.8 billion estimate is purely construction costs. It excludes land costs.
No, it's the city's portion of a total development cost. So in addition to that, there'd be like another, which is roughly, I don't know, 20% of the total development cost for that, and there'd be other financing, public and private, that'd be coming in to, another. It's like every dollar that the city puts into an affordable housing development is leveraged 5 to 6 times over by the developer, because they go out and get other funding. They get funding from the state, the federal government. They get a private bank loan. They get tax credit equity.
So just to clarify, that's the city's contribution to a subsidy, but that's not the total subsidy that's needed to build the.
That's correct.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, next slide. Okay, here we are. Any questions here? Commissioner Cantrell.
Lofty goals. But hey, I have to, the reason I'm saying this is not about you and the work that you do. I know this is difficult. It's about our city and how we view the people who live within it. This is not about a statement. It's about real lives. When we say things like housing stability and opportunities, we're talking about people who are in dire need of these things. But we frame it here as if it's our goal, so we'll achieve it. I think there's when I say this is an act of fantasy, I think we all know that. I think that's just a reality. We would love to see all these things come to fruition, but the likelihood is approaching zero every moment we breathe in this room. It's not going to happen, and I think we should honestly reflect on that. And maybe these types of reports should go back to the governor with that tinge of reality. This is what we can do. This is the problem we have to solve. I think that's our real reality here. But I also take issue with, I sit in this room and I hear the words equity and inclusion all the time. And quite frankly, we fail to actually adjust our lens. When you say equity and inclusion, you have to actually understand these communities that we intend to impact. You have to know that since 1990, African Americans have been declining in population so significantly that it's less than half of what it was then, primarily because of housing costs, secondarily because of income. So when our union brothers here say, we need local folks to take these jobs, believe me, we need local folks to take these jobs. This is the reality we're in. So when we put it on these pages, first do me one favor. Go out and analyze the data on these equity communities we talk about. Look at it, embrace it, and understand it. Because we're talking about the lives of people who are trying to survive in this valley. And we can see clearly by the trends in population, now extended to others. In recent years, it's not just our most vulnerable community. We're just the canaries. We stopped singing and nobody noticed. These are the realities. And this is, when you do this work, please actually look through that lens. Actually look at that information and understand it. It'll give more meaning and purpose to the work that you're doing. And it'll actually, hopefully, impact people with real thinking about what we can do to help. That's why I say this. I'm passionate about it because, quite frankly, I am fighting for my own life here. I want you to embrace this. It's important.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any more hands? Oh, Commissioner Ornelas-Wise?
Just to piggyback on what was said, when you focus on when you have outlined the goals and the focus, does the housing element include the challenges that you're facing with all that stuff? Does it include like the realistic challenges per each goal?
I mean, Commissioner Ornelas-Wise, to the best of our limited abilities, we tried. There, as an appendix B to the housing element, we have like a 180-page assessment of fair housing, and there's a lot of detail in there about the numbers and the stories, about what we heard. It's imperfect, of course, but we did our best as staff. We did a sincere effort to both fulfill what the state of California is asking of us, and what we think is like our moral responsibility as people who care about this city.
No, thank you for your work.
I don't think there's any more questions on this. Thank you. Next slide, please. If nothing here, we'll go on to the next slide. Commissioner Tordillos.
Thank you. I actually did have a comment on the previous slide as it relates to policies and programs. I just wanted to start by calling out some of the really solid strategies that I think have been identified by city staff. I was particularly happy to see Policy P7, Ministerial Infill Approval Ordinance, coming up in the next couple of years. My hope here would be that we can make that as broad as possible. Same with the other kind of by right and ministerial approval reforms that are called out here. I saw Policy P38 mentioned rezoning for by right development of 20% affordable housing projects on sites that were identified in the 4th and 5th planning cycle. From my perspective, why not expand that and make it by right affordable housing developments with 20% affordable units anywhere, regardless of whether those were on sites that were previously identified in previous planning cycles. Also was very happy to see P20, mixed income housing, coming into focus, as well as P35, small unit multifamily housing for up to 10 units in high opportunity areas. Wanted to call out that one in particular. Seems like it segues pretty nicely with the recently passed state legislation, SB 10, which gives cities the authorities to rezone for multifamily projects up to 10 units. And as part of SB 10, cities have the option of making those projects ministerial approvals. So I would hope that as we develop this policy, we can take full advantage of the leverage that the state has given us there. And then I think the final thing that I'll say on strategies here would be that, it's been mentioned multiple times here, the purpose of the housing element is to plan for housing, not for the city to build housing. I would actually push back on that a little bit and say that that could be a strategy here, would be to have the city actually lean into building affordable housing themselves. I think social housing is something that is, increasingly a part of our conversation around the housing crisis. At the state level, San Jose's own Alex Lee introduced AB 309, the Social Housing Act, to try to get some of the infrastructure in place for a public sector housing developer in the state of California. And then further north, Senator Aisha Wahab also introduced SB 555, the State Affordable Housing Act of 2023, And this one would set a 10-year goal of creating 1.2 million units of social housing over the next 10 years, with a 5-year goal of creating 600,000 units of social housing. So when you start to look at that 5-year goal in particular, that would be completely within this next 8-year planning cycle if this bill actually does move forward. So I'd love to see the city start to incorporate social housing as a strategy moving forward. I think right down the block, we have a pretty good model that we could use for that sort of development with San Jose State's workforce housing project with the Alquist redevelopment. So that project will be 50% affordable with 500 units of affordable housing for specifically employees of San Jose State. Would love to see the city invest in similar strategies for workforce housing for city employees. There's been mention of persistent understaffing and retention issues for city employees. And I think what better way to address that than by guaranteeing city staff affordable housing at the actual income levels that they are making, working to improve our city. Yeah, and then I guess the other strategy that I would call out here, there was mentions of, again, a focus on infill development as well as small multifamily housing. And to that end, I would also encourage the city to look into reforming our building codes to make those sorts of development more feasible. Specifically have an eye here towards reforming our building codes to increase the height limit for single staircase apartment buildings. Single staircase apartment buildings up to 6 to 8 stories is one of the dominant housing forms all throughout Europe. It's also been legal in cities in the United States like Seattle and New York for decades. And there's also movement at the state level, again from Assemblymember Alex Lee, to reform some of those building codes at the state level. So I think this is something that could open up a lot of smaller parcel developments, bring down the cost of construction with some of these more middle densities as opposed to just focusing on kind of low densities and high densities. And I think it could also broaden the number of developers who could actually feasibly look into financing a project like this, since it would be smaller unit counts, smaller parcels, and simpler construction. So I think this one has a lot of promise as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tortillas. I look forward to you leading one of our study sessions on the variety of the policies that you covered. It is extensive. There are a lot of opportunities out there. I don't say that in a jesting way. There's just a lot out there, and appreciate that. I know we're going to the next slide. Okay, back to this area. Was there any questions on this? Quick question on high resource. Is there a true legal definition of high resource, or is it of one's opinion?
What we used in the housing element, assessment of fair housing, is the state of California. HCD has, and TCAC, the Tax Credit Allocation Committee, they have maps where the state has designated by census tract high resource areas, middle resource areas,
okay,
low resource areas.
Got it. Thank you very much. Okay, if no questions here, we'll move on to the next slide. I have questions on this one. Under non-government constraints, why wouldn't we list land, since there's a high cost, scarcity on non-governmental constraints?
Land cost is an area that we're required to analyze. We do have an analysis of that in the housing element. I think generally, land costs, I mean, they're obviously a factor in the development cost, but they haven't been kind of the most significant cost that has really led to kind of, infeasibility of projects. Generally, we do have sites available, and land prices haven't really been kind of the most significant factor in terms of feasibility. So it wasn't something that, we had highlighted in that way.
Okay, and under governmental constraints, why would we not list CEQA litigation that delays countless headline projects across the state, both public and private, for years? Why wouldn't we list that?
We touch on it a little bit in the resident opposition section in terms of how that can be used in ways to delay projects. And then, we do have some programs, we don't necessarily mention it directly as a constraint, but we do have some programs identified related to CEQA in terms of doing additional analysis of entire urban villages to try to speed up individual projects, so they have to do less analysis. And then, pursuing that the infill ministerial ordinance would allow, projects in certain cases to bypass certain aspects of the CEQA process. So there are elements of, that in terms of the overall housing element that we did look at.
Okay, I just say that the headline ones recently of both Berkeley and Santa Cruz wanting to build thousands of low-income units that don't require a car in their cities, with the university, it's just been blocked for years. Just always reminds me about, the misuse of CEQA.
Yeah, I would just add, for the city, the state streamlining process through SB 35 and AB 2011, a lot of our affordable projects are, utilizing those routes to approval, and those do, have a CEQA exemption, and so
Right.
that has been a very successful, route for projects to be approved faster.
Yeah, there's certainly been spot legislation. I know the legislature will exempt a billionaire sports arena type of facility. But then I was listening to a podcast with Senator Wiener, who was saying, well, I'm sponsoring a bill on CEQA reform, but it's for a specific neighborhood in San Francisco. And I'm like, what about the rest of the state, So anyway, I'll go on to the rest of the colleagues here if they have questions. Commissioner Tordillos.
Yeah, there's been a lot of mention throughout this meeting about all of the different headwinds that we're facing here that, as a body and as a city, we're not really empowered to solve. I think it could be useful to use this chapter of the housing element, constraints on housing, to actually lay out a roadmap for what some of that state level reform that could actually enable us to move more here could be. So that could be, citing those same figures around the $4 billion in city subsidies that would be required to actually build out our low-income housing requirements. Maybe framing that around what the actual gap in this terms of the state funding need is to reach some of these goals, as well as things like CEQA reform and other things that really primarily sit at the state level.
Okay, anyone else? I guess we'll go on to the next slide. Commissioner Rosario?
Sorry. I just wanted to agree with Commissioner Tordillos. I think that would be great to spell out. So we have kind of a realistic picture that we're showing in our housing element, which everyone reads. Well, a couple people read.
Okay. This one now is sites inventory. Let's see, anyone have questions here? Tordillos?
Sorry, a couple questions on this one. So first, on the pipeline of approved projects, I saw that we basically applied a discount factor to the projects that were already in the pipeline to account for the fact that they won't all make it to construction. It mentioned that there was a study back in 2019 that looked at entitlements between 2014 and 2019, and then a little bit later looking at how many of them actually landed in construction, and it was 62% of the projects, and that also appears to be kind of the discount factor that we're applying here. But I opened the study and read into it a little bit more, and it looked like there were some pretty significant disparities in terms of different building forms, in terms of which ones actually made it into construction. So it called out specifically that high-rise projects, only 25% of those ones actually made it into construction in the window analyzed. And it called out, the fact that entitlement is a very small portion of the total project cost, so high-rises are inherently more risky in terms of making that leap between entitlement and construction. So I was curious if the city actually looked at the building forms of the projects that were cited in the pipeline when we were coming up with those discount factors. And then the other thing that I wanted to call out has also been mentioned here before is just that in the period cited in the 2019 study, basically that entire duration, interest rates were near zero, whereas they are obviously not now. And there's also been mention of increased construction costs kind of on an ongoing basis. So I guess both looking at the topologies of the actual buildings in the pipeline, was that taken into account? And also, did we factor in the current market conditions and construction costs when choosing that discount factor for the pipeline projects?
So we applied a discount factor across all projects. We did not look at the building form. But I'm sorry, what was your second question?
Second one was just looking at market conditions in terms of interest rates and rising construction costs, and whether that should also impact the discount factor that we apply to the pipeline projects.
Specifically, I don't think so. It was really relying on that 2019 study that came up with the 62% rate.
Yeah, I would just add, I mean, in that analysis, we were looking at the last 5 years. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I think it is hard to account for all those variables. I mean, we didn't know in 2021 the interest rates would be where they are now, but I definitely understand where you're coming from. And you know, one of the things that the city's done and we've highlighted in our programs to continue to do is to have third-party analysis, you know, of the costs of construction in the city and to understand the cost by construction type. You know, understanding the costs of high-rise and mid-rise and low-rise in the city. You know, and high-rise has been something we continue to look at. You know, we do have a program, you know, where we do reduce certain fees for high-rise development in the downtown, and that's something we're going to continue to look at and assess. So.
Thank you. Yeah, moving forward, I would love to see a little bit more detail on just the pipeline projects and a little more clarity on what ones we actually expect might stand a chance of being constructed within the planning period. I looked through some of these specific projects that were listed in the pipeline and noticed that a full 5,000 units seem to be ascribed to Google's Downtown West, which, you know, obviously uncertainty there in terms of whether that specific project is going to be completed in the planning cycle. And then also noticed other projects, a lot of high rises that were entitled 3 or 4 years ago and may have their entitlements expiring in the not too distant future that haven't had a ton of visible progress that I'm skeptical are going to be built in the planning cycle, including one where the developer went defunct and the property was foreclosed by the lender, but still listed in the pipeline project, seemingly with the same discount factor as anything else. So we'd like to see some, I guess, a little bit more rigor there in terms of the analysis of the pipeline projects.
I mean, I guess just to add a little bit, you know, I think, you know, there is such a significant, I mean, the discount factor is based on, you know, the past 5 years, you know, and I think that in that real historical example, you do see with that significant 40% reduction, you know, you do see that there are a lot of projects that aren't going to make it, you know, so I think through that historical analysis you know, those variables are kind of factored in there, you know, based on being it over that period of time. So, but I understand where you're coming from too.
Yeah, mostly just trying to make space for the fact that if it ends up being that only 20% of those projects break ground instead of 60%, that's obviously, you know, we're looking at 20,000 plus pipeline approved units here. So any discrepancy between the discount factor that we're applying and what the actual reality ends up being will have a very large impact in terms of what our actual RENA allocation ends up looking like. So I wanted to also speak briefly on the actual opportunity sites that were identified in the sites inventory. So looking at the HCD inventory handbook for how we should calculate expected densities for these, I noticed a quote that it said the capacity calculation must be adjusted to reflect the realistic potential for residential development capacity on the sites within the planning cycle period. And it also made specific mention of the fact that jurisdictions should look to their own past experience with successfully converting existing uses to higher densities and residential development, as well as market trends, conditions, and any regulations or incentives that the city is providing. So I'd love to hear more about how we actually came up with the densities that are identified as targets for those sites in the site inventory.
Yeah, so when looking at the capacity analysis, using the tool that I mentioned, the building blocks Ptolemy, what they helped us with is looking at the sites in the inventory and then matching those sites based on their characteristics with sites that redeveloped in the last cycle. And sites that match the most closely to those redevelopments, we took a look at those capacities and then came up with a capacity estimate for those sites. So for every site in the inventory, there were about 5 comparables, we call them, and they had, you know, the density that was actually built. And so that's how we feel like our, you know, capacity estimate is really driven by the data and by matching, you know, sites with the past development experience. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I spent quite a bit of time last night looking through the Ptolemy tool, actually kind of diving into the inventory here. So I was curious. I represent D3, obviously. So I looked at the 26 highest density sites that were identified within D3. And I noticed that a lot of them in their comps seem to have outliers that kind of swung the average density quite considerably. And then digging into it a little bit more, I noticed that the biggest outliers there were projects that were approved but not actually constructed. So I do have some skepticism there that some of these outliers that we're listing, you know, 1,100 dwelling units per acre as their densities were actually representative of realistic capacity, given that they were projects that haven't actually been constructed. And then I did a little bit of math just to look at, if we took a median of our comps or did an average of comps that were actually constructed within the previous planning cycle as opposed to just being entitled, that would drop the target estimated density by about 50%. So again, similar question to the pipeline. I think that this question of how we determine those densities and how rigorously they are backed up by the actual data from our history of developing projects has a really large impact in terms of how many units we can actually expect from the given number of sites on the sites inventory. And as the current draft stands, I'm just not 100% convinced that the density estimates are actually reflective of what we could expect to see built on a lot of these sites.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to see some of those specific examples. I mean, generally, the assumptions never exceed what the allowable capacity is under the general plan, and more often than not are below what the allowable capacity is. And so, we're trying to be as rooted in data as possible. So I think in a lot of cases, some may actually underestimate, in terms of capacity. But, there are outliers because of site size as well. And, but try to filter that out by trying to match based upon characteristics. But, some sites are just a lot more different than others and may not have a perfect match, but, we try to use as much data as possible. So
thank you. That's it for me.
Great. Thank you very much. We'll go on to the next slide. I'll ask this question here maybe about neighborhood business districts. So I think you have some competing policies of the city, ones that for neighborhood business districts that are inclined to have ground floor, retail, commercial, and then you have low-income project that would not be having any retail. And so when it comes to protecting neighborhood business districts, does the staff see a way that is it contradictory, or should neighborhood business districts allow for housing on top with some commercial on the bottom in a neighborhood business district?
I'm trying to remember what the policy says exactly.
Do you want me
I
to
think
address that
go
one?
ahead, Michael.
Yeah, so I think just kind of stepping back, we've been having real challenges with planning for mixed use just in general in this city. And a lot of it has to do, mixed use for planners is like the secret sauce, right, of success for urbanism. And we've planned for mixed use in a lot of places. Most recently, per in the General Plan Task Force recommendation, we recommended including allowing for residential in some of our neighborhood business districts like Lincoln Avenue, for example, 13th Street and Taylor Street in Japantown. However, with state law changes such as density bonus law, it's very hard it makes it difficult to get the commercial, and it makes it difficult to require the commercial. Particularly with affordable housing or a project that integrates affordable housing that's market rate. And so that's created real challenges. So if you really wanted to just preserve businesses on a neighborhood business district, you should not allow housing, to be honest with you. Mixed use ain't gonna work if that's what you want to do, I think. However, there's new state laws that just got passed, SB 6 and AB 2011, that now say, oh, now you can do housing in those commercial areas. So at this point, the state is taking us down that road. And in the bigger picture, we think it's the right thing to do. It's just that there's a lot more complications around state laws and what we can and cannot require. And then the city council got rid of the requirements anyway for affordable housing provided market rate. So one of the things that we have to sort of thread the needle is come up with a zoning code framework that that will encourage, allow, require where we can, as much as we can, integration of commercial within new mixed-use project and mixed-use development. The council did approve a general plan change, but the zoning work hasn't been done yet, and that's the next piece that will be coming over the next probably 12 months or so. So we have to figure that out, and it's really going to be challenging.
Sure, and not all locations are equal, right? I mean, I think sometimes everyone's going for mixed use, and they'll do it on the 40-mile-per-hour street. But then when we have these neighborhood business districts that are quaint and 25 mile per hour, and it's every, shop is filled, or there could be a vacancy, but it's all commercial, and it's sort of this congruent, central location. It would seem like that's where it could work. But on the 40-mile-per-hour street, maybe not so much because it doesn't have the pedestrian traffic. Right. So I'm trying to understand, and would then someone be able to knock down an existing retail building, put in the housing 100% affordable, low income, and there'd be no commercial requirement at all on that, this sort of premier business district streets?
Correct. So there could be a requirement. Well, so first of all, the council says we can't require it. But even if we did require it, and we did until last fall in some cases, because of state density bonus law, affordable housing developers would get concession and waivers, and they would just concession that away. So it's not that there are occasionally an affordable housing developer that might put some kind of ground floor space, but generally because it's very difficult to finance that space. I think my understanding, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, there were financing mechanisms in the past that would contribute towards that construction of that space that aren't there anymore. So there's a trend now that they don't want to build it, and they really brought up that that's a financial challenge, and the council heard them and eliminated that requirement. So. Yeah, I mean,
it is really difficult to finance that space.
Okay, moving on to the rest of the crew. Commissioner Ornelas-Wise.
Just to piggyback on what was said right now, it's just kind of like looking in regards to ground floor retail, because, obviously I've seen it in my own neighborhood that it doesn't work in certain areas for whatever reason. I think it has to do with, pedestrian, like on Monterey corridor where everyone's going like speeding. Right. But then you look at like older models that have worked, like in the downtown area, in the Burbank, where you got like a neighborhood and then you got that corner convenience store, something like that. That may just be something on a corner that could provide some convenience with some food. Just, yeah.
Okay, next slide.
I just want to highlight on this slide, a key takeaway is that of our affordable housing units, 89% of the sites are in those moderate, high, or highest resource areas. That's a really important part of the inventory, and only 5.5% of the lower income sites are in the racially, ethnically concentrated areas of poverty, the recap areas. So I think that's a really, the state really wants us, and affirmatively addressing for housing is to create opportunities for people to live in those moderate, high, and high resource communities, and not say, hey, we're just gonna build more low income in your neighborhood, so you have to stay there. Now, that being said, we have heard from some communities that are under threat of gentrification, that are low income, and they may want the opportunity to stay in their neighborhood and not be forced out with gentrification if and when it happens. So there are some affordable housing sites in those lower income neighborhoods, but not many, only 5.5%.
Okay, next slide. Going once, going twice. I see Commissioner Ornelas-Wise touching your screen. Is that?
Well, this is where I would like to see that incentive in regards to supplemented site inventory analysis. Of course, I would like to see, possible streets that could be taken back and converted into affordable housing. That's what I would like to see as far as, when you're talking about inventory analysis. I think that we need to really take a look at, reclaiming some of that, all the streets that maybe there's certain streets that we could do away with to create more housing on.
just wanted to comment if I could, in some of our outreach, particularly to the affordable housing developers, there's kind of a sweet spot for kind of the site size that they look for to build affordable projects based on, the subsidies available. And really it's from about 1/2 acre to 1.5 acres. And so those smaller sites, while they might create some opportunity, might be difficult to produce affordable housing on. And actually HCD asks us not to include sites less than half an acre without additional analysis. And so most all of our sites, except for a select few, are above 1/2 acre. And sites for lower income generally below 1.5 acres for the most part.
Yeah. Well, of course, I think about going on to GIS and actually mapping out like certain streets and areas that, may be able to accommodate that, that's, yeah.
Well, I think of the times when people don't want anyone driving down their street and they want the city to make a cul-de-sac. Well, then the city could say, well, we'll sell the street for housing, but I'm sure they're not going to want that. All right, let's go to the next slide, unless you were done, Commissioner.
Yeah, no, I really think that site that I was talking about near Happy Hollow Park, and I think that's a really large, I think it could be 1/2 acre. That's just what I'm saying. And it's not close to, well, it might be close to some housing, but it's next to a creek and a park. So I think that's worth exploring.
I'm betting $5 Jared does a site visit within the next couple days. So. Okay, next slide. And let's see here, Commissioner Cantrell.
Just a question. One of the callers mentioned that there wasn't enough time to adequately evaluate the last update. How much time did we actually give?
The draft was posted last Wednesday, so 7 days, consistent with Planning Commission posting requirements.
Is 7? I'm sorry. I had a hard time digesting much of this myself in a limited period of time that I had. Does that seem small? Is there a reason why it was that small?
It is consistent with the requirements for Planning Commission, but we're also trying to meet our schedule to get this to City Council by June 20th.
That's what I thought.
And get the certification as soon as possible after.
Okay, that's what I thought. So we assemble, we put the fire engines together and then wait, and then we dispatch them. So I think I know we're a planning commission and you're planners. I think that proper planning gives time for analysis, thought, and reflection. I don't know that a week is adequate, quite frankly.
Maybe I just address that, because I think there was some other comments from the public that echoed that sentiment, and a week does not allow enough time. However, this process has been going on for years. September was the first draft, right, that was submitted to HCD of last year. HCD provided comments to us in December and listed out changes that we needed to make for compliance, and I think that last slide listed out bullet points of all the changes that needed to be made. So there's no legal requirement that we then go back again for another round, because there was substantial public comment, more than what's required through state law. So there's no requirement, there's no state requirement to go back again for another round of public comment, right? We were given a list of items that we needed to include to become compliant with the state housing element law. And I think we've done that, and I think at this point we have to rely on the professionals, right, the experts who are in our city staff to substantially comply. And so I just wanted to refocus also for the commission that the resolution that you may or may not be recommending tonight is about whether or not this housing element is substantially compliant with state law, right? So there are requirements, right? This one-size-fits-all housing law, right, that the state promulgates and then lays it into the hands of these fine folks to interpret and devise this housing element that hopefully will address quote unquote, address these housing problems, but we're not going to solve it with this housing element. It's just not going to happen, right? But we are about complying with the law, right? And so I just want to make sure that we're focusing on the resolution that you're recommending tonight, which is about whether or not this housing element substantially complies with the state housing element law.
I get what you're saying. But I understand governor is supposed to get very serious about this housing element.
The governor?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
very serious.
it's an incredible complex situation where you have politicians who are trying to solve problems, and then they put it into the hands of local jurisdictions and professionals who study these types of issues to solve. And then, there's a cycle of elections, and we decide as a public whether or not the people have made the right decision in choosing these elected officials to properly direct the staff, right? I mean, it's incredibly complex, and it just goes around and around and around until we pick the right people who have the right ideas.
I get that. I think we could have been maybe 2 weeks earlier on delivering this. That's my assessment. I think if we know what the end date is, we should plan better when we deliver this, so that we can actually have the community provide their thoughts and analysis and digest it and reply if necessary. Quite possibly they could go through it over the next 3 weeks and find out, turns out everything's just fine. But we should have planned to afford the opportunity for that to happen. That's all.
Okay, Commissioner Lardenois.
Yeah. Excuse me. I believe we're at the end of the presentation, and this is more general, but it is in the vein of this conversation that's been had here. Excuse me. So, all right. So I think, Daniel, I want to thank you for bringing it back, because that really is the focus here. Is the city made a submittal last year, and it was not substantially compliant. HCD sent a letter back to the city asking.
That was, just for the record, that was never a determination that it was not substantially compliant.
All right. Nice. Let me, thanks for clarifying that. But regardless, HCD sent the city back a letter asking for significant changes in order to make the housing element substantially compliant. And right now, my understanding is the city is subject to the builder's remedy. Is that correct? And could someone on staff just very briefly just talk about what the builder's remedy is and how it impacts San Jose?
I would love to talk to you about the builder's remedy. Well, no, I mean, so builder's remedy is, there's no such thing as a builder's remedy. It's kind of this fiction, right? So it's a part of the Housing Accountability Act where if we do not, as a city, adopt or have certified a housing element, then there are 5 findings in the Housing Accountability Act that are made as far as how a city can deny an affordable housing project, right? Affordable housing development.
It's market rate that includes 20% affordable, so it's not just affordable.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Yeah, it's a defined term in the Housing Accountability Act. So there are 5 findings that enable us to deny that project. One of them being whether or not it's adverse to public health and safety. Another one being whether or not we have a compliant housing element, right? And so if we do not have a compliant housing element, it's been proposed that there's this builder's remedy that you don't need to comply with the zoning ordinance or the land use designation under the general plan for a particular property, right? So that has been interpreted, even though there's no case law really on this, right? It's been interpreted as if you don't have a housing element that's substantially compliant or certified, then a developer can come in and propose a project that is not consistent with the general plan land use designation, not consistent with zoning. So that throws a big wrench into everything because nobody really knows what it means, right? So we're all trying to figure out what does that really mean? And there's been a ton of, not a ton, but there have been multiple builder's remedy applications, mostly in Southern California, but there have been plenty here in the Bay Area. We've received 2. And they're for commercial properties. And so we're kind of trying to figure out how we can, you know, respond to these. Is that, I don't know if that's answering your question enough or what?
Yeah, that is what the kind of summary I was looking for, but I think also.
I was just gonna, Michael's saying we have 4 applications. I think the other 2 may not be formal applications. I think they're just preliminary applications.
Okay.
So, unless I have different data. But there is interest in pursuing the builder's remedy.
Michael, did you have?
No, I
Okay.
mean, I think there's a number of them floating out there. It's between 3 and 4 formal ones and 3 or 4 floaters out there. So, I mean, yes, there are builders remedy coming to San Jose.
Yeah, and so thank you for explaining that way better than I could, because I want to highlight that because we don't currently have a housing element that's been accepted by HCD, we are subject to the builder's remedy, and while there may be ambiguities around what exactly that means, that could lead to projects in areas we don't want them, like could be potentially, I mean, and maybe I'm wrong about some of these things, but maybe potentially outside the urban growth boundary, or potentially in areas like Coyote Valley, or redeveloping mobile home parks that the city has put a lot of effort into preserving, or even, you know, like it was mentioned just now, converting commercial property into housing, which could have a big impact on our goals to improve our jobs housing balance. So it's really important that the city get a substantially compliant housing element as soon as possible, ideally on this next submittal. And the reason I'm concerned about our ability to do that, as Commissioner Cantrell raised, the current draft of the housing element was published a week ago, and I understand that that's the minimum required, but I found it very difficult to make any kind of evaluation in that amount of time. If I'm correct, I believe the track changes version was only posted yesterday. Is that correct?
Yes, I think so. If not the day before.
Okay. And then is there, I don't think there is there a document, because let me step back. HCD's letter is 17 pages long. I didn't count the number of changes they asked for, but it's, I believe, in the dozens. And a lot of them are, I don't know if other folks read the letter, a lot of the changes aren't just you have this technical thing wrong in how you did your housing element. There are some of the requested changes that are fundamental disagreements about whether, you know, certain policies and initiatives the city has are meeting what we're required to do by state law. And I was going through with, you know, first with just the draft and then with the track changes version, trying to, for myself, determine if, you know, some of those things were addressed or not. Does staff prepare a document that basically says, all right, here are all the suggestions from HCD and here's what we did to address them? Does anything like that exist?
No, we don't have such document, but we are hoping to prepare one for City Council so that it's clear where HCD had issues and comments and how we've addressed them. But we believe that we have addressed them with this draft that is posted now on the website.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. And it would have been really helpful for us. And I want to step back because I know my tone sounds critical. I really appreciate all the hard work that staff put into this. I understand that there's, you know, housing element has been required for what, like 50 years now. There's 50 years of state laws and regulations that have gone into creating this process. I know it's a big undertaking that's been many years in the making. But that document would have been really helpful to have for us to draw conclusions about the draft. You know, just for a point of comparison, when we have a project before us on the Planning Commission, we get a staff report that cites all the relevant portions of the general plan and staff's determination of whether a project meets them or not. And that makes it really easy for us to go take that, go read those parts of the general plan, make our own conclusions, and contribute that to the decision that we make here on the dais. So I feel like I was not able to really make a review to my satisfaction of the draft. One, because there was only a week total. Two, because there's only a day total of having a track changes version. And then also of not having it explicitly outlined how the city addressed HCD's concerns about the first draft. And I want to ask my colleagues to consider continuing this so we could have that time. I mean, my understanding, there was that slide that had what's coming up. The Housing Community Development Commission is seeing this on June 6th, is that right?
June 8th.
June 8th, sorry. June 8th, and then the council is seeing it on June 20th. Our next scheduled meeting would be the 14th. I know previously we discussed over email having a special meeting next week to discuss this item. I don't know what the decision staff was made that led to being in this meeting, but I think we're all here, we all have the same goal, getting a housing element accepted, certified, substantially compliant by HCD as soon as possible. And I think for us to fully exercise our advisory function here, we need more time.
Yeah, so, right, so the other issue that we didn't talk about is that there are potentially grants that we'd be ineligible for as well as housing elements out of compliance, particularly as relates to transportation housing, we think we okay. So, so if we don't go on, so I think the key thing is is there a way to squeeze in a planning commission so we can still get to council on June 20th? If we don't go to June 20th, we're going in August.
Right, yeah, and I understand there's a council recess.
So and there's no one on 27. So I think we did talk about doing it next week, actually deferring it till next Wednesday, right? So I think one thought is, could we continue it to next Wednesday?
Michael, I know that City Council was considering canceling their. What day was this going to go to council?
The 20th.
The 27th they canceled. It's the 20th.
Right, but isn't council still considering having a meeting on the 27th?
No.
It's been canceled.
It's been canceled.
And I will say absolutely my preferences would be if we could have more time, but in a way that would not delay council's consideration of this item, because I don't want us to do that, but I'm not sure exactly how the mechanics of this work.
Michael and City Attorney, could the commission, for lack of better words, float the housing element to the council and citing X amount of concerns? And that staff and city council should consider those at the planning city council meeting?
It sounds like what is happening here would be two things, right? One is maybe having a special meeting on Wednesday the 31st, like was kind of proposed earlier last week, or to not recommend because you didn't have enough time to review. That's what it sounds like.
Right, and so, yeah, I mean, what I would like to be able to do is have the time to go through the changes that were made to the draft and for all of us. And if we feel that there are any, elements of things that HCD asked for that we feel that the draft does not adequately address, that we can give that feedback as part of a recommendation. So again, that would be my preference rather than us making a recommendation, making some kind of negative recommendation here. I don't think that's helpful. I don't think we're giving the council useful information if we do that.
And is a week? I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not promising anything, but I think is a week enough for all of you to digest this and really make a professional.
Right. I mean, I think it's better than what we've had so far.
Okay.
And actually, just if I could ask, I mean, I know that I know Michael would talking. But just Ruth, if I could ask a clarifying question, that document I brought up about outlining specifically how HED's requests were addressed. Do you have a sense of when that document will be available?
No, but I can tell you it will take at least a week to put together, and we have a short week next week with the holiday.
Makes
and
sense.
This Friday too, folks taking time off.
Right. And so I understand that if we were to meet in a week, we wouldn't have that. But I still think the time would be helpful and that we would be able to make a much more informed recommendation than we could tonight.
So just to clarify, your concern is not staff's work, it's just the time for commissioners to review
Yeah, it's our
the red
work.
lines.
'Cause
Yeah.
I don't think we've had enough time to do good work here as a commission.
Commissioner Young. Or you're not?
No, I had some general questions, but I think Commissioner Lardenois' question is more urgent at this point, so I'm just going to defer mine.
Okay. Commissioner Barroso?
Yeah, just similar, and just a clarifying question. Is there a motion on the table already?
There's no motion right now.
Oh, there's no motion. Okay, because I was going to say.
Yeah, I want to get some appetite first, but.
Okay. Then I'll hold my question until we settle this.
Commissioner Tordillos.
I just wanted to
Michael,
second-
did you have a question you want? No, okay. Commissioner Tordillos.
I just wanted to second that I would appreciate the additional time. I know that there was the discussion of a possible special session next week, and then I believe we also have a meeting scheduled for June 14th, which would still be before this item goes to council, if that would be another option.
No. Yeah, no. If we go next Wednesday, we have effectively 2 days to write a memo from the Planning Commission, the City Council, that's reviewed by a whole bunch of chefs in the kitchen, and have it signed by the city manager and posted. So that's going to be real tight for us. It's something we could probably pull off, but literally the next Wednesday's it. Yeah,
Thank
I
you
mean,
for
I
the
think one thing we could do, it just gives you more time to review what you have, and perhaps, we could talk about, we could do a presentation that gives a little more detail on some of the bigger comments that we've got and just talks about how we address them, maybe a little more detail. But there isn't time to put together that document that you're asking for, Commissioner Lardenois. There's just not. If the goal is to get it to council on June 20th.
I just also want to point out that we do, in order to hold the special meeting next week, you need to have quorum, so at least 6 of the commissioners have to be present.
Okay, let's see here. Who's left to speak on this topic? Commissioner Cantrell.
With all due respect, with as much respect as I can muster, this is a problem of your own making once again. This happened recently with a change with the EPA requirements for stormwater runoff. It's a consistent problem that you bring these things to us with a real sense of urgency because we didn't plan for the thought and reflection that's required. I've said this before. I think I've said it at least 3 times now. I don't know if it begins at some point to feel like a manipulation. Let's be realistic about how much time it takes to do these things. I'm willing to show up here next week to get through this in a more fair, practical, and thought out manner. But what I would like to see is that it doesn't always come this way, that there's time for this kind of reflection and adjustment built in to this process. I say that with respect, but quite frankly, I say it with concern. We do this too often.
I share concern, but I share concern knowing that we have limited resources in the planning department, and they are, frankly, working as hard as they can. I don't believe there's any ill intent by staff. I just think they're just, there's so many cities, I forget what percentage are behind on their housing element. I mean, it's over 50%. I mean, it's something 75. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's there's all these cities are struggling to complete their element, and I think our staff is caught between a variety of priorities that the council puts them in, et cetera. So I just think it's a tough place to be and I don't, I mean, I think attending a meeting as a commissioner or a city council member, I'm always thinking of, well, who actually does the work? And I think it's professional staff that has to do that work, and policymakers will, have a variety of scenarios. And I'm not pointing at the commission. I'm even pointing at back at the city council when colleagues would request reports they would never read. I mean, it's just part of the things that ends up creating all this backup for staff. So I just wanted to say that, and I know the commissioner had zero ill intent, and I'm not trying to portray that at all. I just feeling of what's going on with with staff in many departments. So Commissioner Young.
I'm torn actually on this, and I definitely agree with you, Commissioner Cantrell. This is reminiscent of the Coyote Valley to me, where this commission was not able to approve that because, in my opinion, we didn't have sufficient time. We had requested a study session. We didn't get a study session. So, and I don't want to criticize the staff at all. As I've said before, I came from local government. I know how hard you folks have to work, and I know, as the chair has said, you're under a lot of constraints, but it just makes it difficult for us to really, I think, as Commissioner Lardnois said, do our job as an oversight. I'm wondering if, the city attorney mentioned one option is just to basically vote no. And if that would not be my preferred option, I will say. So maybe I should I think we have enough information to vote on this tonight. I'm not sure, speaking for myself, what additional information I'm going to get from the staff that is going to help me make a better decision. So I guess my preference would be that, we vote tonight. But I'm willing to come on the 31st. I'm not sure, Michael, a question if it was a quorum issue that was the reason that special meeting was not held. If it is, then it's on us, right? Anyway, that's my 2 cents, I guess.
I'm going to go back down the list. Is it Lardnois? Okay, Commissioner Lardnois?
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to say again, I understand that staff has been working really hard on this and is under a lot of pressure to get this, keep this on schedule. And 7 days is our standard for how we operate on the Planning Commission. And I think for most things, that's fine. I think this is an exceptional case where it's not enough. And that's no fault of staff. I guess, if we're unable to continue this, I don't think we should vote no. I think that's, one, will be misunderstood as what we mean by that, but also I don't think that's helpful. But in terms of, Commissioner Young, you asked what more would be accomplished in a week. I mean, I'm just speaking for me personally, and perhaps other folks feel this way. This is a large document with a lot of information, and a lot changed in this draft, especially looking at the track changes version. And I mean, in that case, that wasn't 7 days, that was 1 day, that, actually being able to, okay, this is exactly what changed, and trying to reconcile that with the feedback HCD gave on our first draft. I feel like I need more time for that. Excuse me. If we can't, I guess, can I get a straw poll? How many folks feel like they can make next week if we have a meeting? Is that exactly 6? Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So it seems like we could have a quorum. So Daniel, if I could get your help here, I want to make a motion to, I don't know, make a motion to have a special meeting next week and to continue this item to it. What would be the proper way to do that? I know with general plan hearings, you can continue it either and allow public comment next time or continue it and not allow public comment. What would be the right way to phrase it to allow public comment next time?
Reopen the public hearing.
Okay. So I don't think I've ever moved to have a special meeting, but so I want to make a motion here to have a special meeting next week to continue this item to that meeting and reopen the public hearing.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Commissioner Casey? Or no, you dropped it. Let's see, let me clear the list here. I want to make sure who's, if you want to speak, hit it now. Commissioner Barosio.
All right, very technical question, but thank you. Thank you for getting us to this point. Commissioner Laudenwa. Very technical question. 90% or 89%, this was one of the last slides, about, correct me if I'm wrong, 89% of the identified low-income sites are in moderate to high resource areas, correct? Yes? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. And I imagine that at times the communities come out and they weigh in on proposed projects. Did you find that of the 127 proposals that you had to integrate some sort of language that could mediate some of the public outcry that will say, no, not in my neighborhood, but it will help with distributing low-income housing throughout the city? If you found that, which of the 127 sort of addresses those potential stoppages?
I believe there is a program in Chapter 3 that speaks to improving how we talk about housing, of how we talk about affordable housing, and there's more to that program, but that was one way for us to address that issue of, you know, folks coming out and not wanting affordable housing because of XYZ. There is one program to that point. And then there is also the streamlined proposal, so that when someone applies through this program for a housing development, we have set timelines for review, and we still haven't discussed the specifics of that program, but part of it would be, I think, ensuring that the sites are exempt from CEQA review, and that, as was noted earlier, sometimes does delay projects when people use CEQA as a stalling tactic for these programs, for these projects.
I just want to note, though, that the issue of NIMBYs and using CEQA against affordable housing has largely been addressed by the state of California. It's called SB 35. So a significant number of our affordable housing projects are using SB 35 streamlining. There's no public hearing. There does not have to be any community meetings at all. There often are, just because the developer wants to be a good neighbor. And it goes to the director. We check the boxes. The director stamps. You're approved. And there's by the way, there's no CEQA. So that is a process the state established that actually has been very successful in San Jose and I think throughout the state, and we're actually very happy with it. And that's a model that I would say probably would you say most affordable housing developers are using SB 35 now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, roughly 80,
And it's a
90%.
model, as Ruth said, we're trying to replicate for market rate housing that provides some level of affordability to incent the inclusion of affordable.
And Commissioner, it's program H-12, that the Neighborhood Outreach and Education on Homeless Housing and Other Housing Topics.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. I see that happening at times, and it's good that there's, you know, something at the state and the local level. Thank you.
And along those lines, I mean, I can't even recall a housing project in the city of San Jose that's zoned on land that's for housing that's been denied by the city council. So even though that chart cited NIMBYs, it didn't make a difference when it came to implementation, whether it was at the city council level, planning commission level, planning director level.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any denials for these types of projects. What does happen is that, you know, they may shave off a floor or lose units or redesign, and again, that just adds more time to the project.
Or, I mean, there's also the post-approval, like look at what's happening with El Paseo and the sequel lawsuit about Whole Foods.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's always there. Okay, so we're here we are. Any other commissioners wanting to make a comment? We currently have a motion to continue the meeting, continue with an open public hearing on this item to be heard at the 31st. Any other comments? Yep, Commissioner Young.
Thank you. If I could just ask a clarifying question, Commissioner Lardenois, do you feel that staff has enough information of what additional information we specifically need because, and here's the reason I'm asking the question is, the worst case scenario I see of this is we continue it, and I understand your reasons for that. And then for some reason, either we don't get a quorum or we don't feel there's enough information, and then what happens, right? And then, so I'm really torn. I mean, I very much, respect your request and understand, but I'm just a little not sure what to do, I guess.
Sure. And to be clear, I'm not asking staff for additional information between now and then. If it was possible to provide, like I mentioned, a document explaining specifically how HCD comment was addressed, that would be helpful, but it's not possible to provide that in that amount of time. So really what I'm just asking for is time. And time for me and everyone else on this commission to really dig into the draft and the letter from HCD and come back if we feel that there are any areas that things need to be changed to meet what HCD is asking for. And I totally agree with you. It would be frankly embarrassing if we didn't get a quorum next week. But at the same time, that's on us. And I think, that's part of our obligation in this role is to show up for meetings. I understand it's hard for folks if, a meeting pops up with a week's notice, but making every effort to do that is really important.
And just to be clear, the straw poll was 6?
7, I believe.
7?
Yeah. 6. Oh, well, yeah, who could make it to a meeting next Wednesday?
Guaranteed.
6.
Okay, never. Sorry, I thought it was 7, but
I cannot, not as of this moment, but I will try to make myself available, but I cannot guarantee, and thus
Sure.
I can't vote for the motion because I can't guarantee my attendance next week.
Yeah, so Commissioner Lardenois, I'm just kind of a devil's advocate with very much respect. If we met next week and there's only 6 of us, then that doesn't really give an opportunity for the other commissioners because we're going to vote, right, at that meeting. So I think we're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. I'd like to support the motion, but I'm not sure I can because I'm not sure that's the right thing to do, I guess.
We could always take a 5-minute break and pace the room.
Well, I mean, just as a proposal to move this along, you could rescind it, right? Table it. You could make a new motion to approve or to recommend, take that vote. Yeah, or a substitute motion if you want to do that. However you want to do it. But that's just a recommendation to keep us moving along. Or we can take the vote on that motion.
Well, I see more commissioners would like to chat, so I'm all up for that. Commissioner Ornelas-Wise.
Yeah, I'm just thinking I know this is kind of tough. I think that there was just some things that were brought up today that just, I guess I really wish the document really spoke to the hardship of what it takes for us to really fulfill this, right? And a little bit more, I guess, raw, real reality. But what if we also what if we just voted for it with some sort of, I don't know, almost kind of like review? We obviously will get more time, and maybe if we could get those documents that are going to go to City Council and have the opportunity to make some comments and make some sort of recommendation to the council at that point, and have that included in somehow. I don't know. just to move the process along.
Chair,
Commissioner Wise, I want to ask a question of the city attorney. So if we came to our June 14th meeting and we, Commissioner Lardner wants and others might say to say, hey, more time to review. And even though the item, let's say just fictitiously for this purpose, we pass it on to the city council. And then along the way, we are able to have more time. Could we then at the June 14th meeting state an opinion to the council on the item? Like a phantom housing element, right? We pass it, you got the other one, and where the commission's now had time and said, okay, we'd like to just make some comments on, now that have had more time to review it.
So maybe bringing this back for additional review. I mean, I'm wondering, we're just kind of piecing this through with Michael, whether or not there would be individual comments, or if this were going to be something where you could approve tonight and then come back with additional recommendations.
Well, I don't believe so I think we could have a discussion next week. It's going to really cause us to scramble to turn that around to council, but I think it's possible. But beyond that next week, I don't see how it's possible for the commission to have a discussion and then as a group pass a recommendations to council that then we would turn around and
It wouldn't be that. It would be, we pass the house, just throwing this out there, potentially push on whatever words you want to use. The housing element goes to council. We have an item to discuss. Maybe it's on our agenda as we typically have this section called. Hang on, I want to just get the correct report from City Council. And maybe at report from City Council, individuals of the commissions could say, I've had more time to review the housing element. I'd like to state this on the record. And then when you're doing because you always write a summary of the commission discussion, so you got plenty tonight to hear about our summary discussion. And then this is just like an extra informational memo of what the commission's comments were at the June 14th meeting regarding their prior vote and more time to take a look at things. It's not a vote. It's just people to share their feedback.
Well, I've got an alternative suggestion. So I used to be on the Housing and Community Development Commission, and there were several occasions where we formed a subcommittee to write a letter, and then that came back to the Planning Commission. Because, Michael, I understand when we make a formal recommendation, that's a process. It goes into PC or planning staff creating a memo, and there's turnaround associated with that. What if tonight, we vote on this item, we form a subcommittee, which has to be less than a quorum of the commission to be compliant with the Brown Act, that comes back with language for a letter to City Council, like you said, with additional comments on the housing element. And then at the June 14th meeting, we vote as a complete body to approve that letter, or to, with any edits that the commission as a whole wants to make. It doesn't have to go back to planning to formalize the memo. We just send that off straight to City Council, and it's complementary to the memo.
So just, actually, one of the big concerns was that the community didn't get enough time to digest, reflect, and respond. That doesn't solve that problem.
But the community does have up until City Council meeting.
Well, and then also, on this, item we have on the June 14th agenda to finalize our letter, we can take public comment on that.
Got it. Good. Okay.
So just to check in with the folks that supervise us, do you believe that would be acceptable? And then we can also ask the group if that seems okay to them too.
So just summarize for me what your thoughts were.
Sure. So this is an alternative suggestion to the motion that's currently on the table. We vote on the staff recommendation here tonight. We form a subcommittee to draft a letter to City Council with additional recommendations. We agendize an item on June 14th to discuss and approve language for that letter to send to city council.
Yeah, and then I'm hearing what Commissioner Cantrell is raising is that, does that really involve the public and their concerns? But I think it's a lot easier if we're either voting to approve tonight or just doing a special meeting next week. I mean, I honestly, that's just, without complicating with the subcommittee and all that stuff, it's either tonight or next week, I think is.
Fair enough.
Another
Sure.
idea, potentially.
Go ahead.
Push along the housing element, take any amendments from the floor, such as, we did not believe we had adequate amount of time, but this is our recommendation, and or Commissioner Ornelas Wise, I'd like to make sure public land is utilized, or many of the recommendation that Commissioner Tordillos made, that'd be an amendment, and so we'd have a housing element passed with a bunch of amendments, and we can vote each of those amendments up or down. That's just, I'll throw that out there as an option, and then I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to go back to the list.
I'll just say, I mean, the whole reason I've gotten us into this discussion is like, I don't feel like I had enough time to prepare all those amendments you're discussing. So, yeah.
Understood. Yep. So I'm going to go Commissioner Rosario.
Just to speak to Commissioner Lardenois, I think I'm inclined to vote no, similar to the Coyote Valley vote, and say we didn't have enough time and let City Council address that. That makes sense?
As in vote no on the staff recommendation? Okay.
And spell out why, right?
Okay, I'm going to go to Commissioner Tordillos.
I just wanted to say that I'm also currently inclined to vote no on the staff recommendation. I feel like we haven't really had enough time to address a lot of the comments, and especially lacking the sort of document that was described, kind of mapping HCD comments to edits. It's, you know, kind of coming back to the core question of whether this housing element draft is actually meeting the requirements of the law. I feel like it's very difficult for us to really ascertain that with the information and the time that we have here today. And I also wanted to just kind of push back a little bit on the sense of urgency around, you know, getting to this June passage. Correct me if I'm wrong, the housing elements were actually due back in January. So we're already 5 months late. We'll be 6 months late going into June. At that point, is it really material if this doesn't make it to City Council until August when we're already 6 months late?
Okay, Commissioner Barroso.
I would like to know the answer to that question. Is there like a $50,000 per day fine, or
there's just a further risk, as what staff said, for people to file applications that city planners and the vision of the city may not want, and I think there's some potential of not securing a specific grant.
There is potential of not being able to go after grant money for transportation, and there's potentially builder's remedy. And, you know, I just want to share with you that what we're seeing is unfortunate. There are some of the applications we've received that it's high density, and while the general plan may not allow it there, but, you know, it's high density. That's what we're striving for in many of our growth areas. However, there are developers now that are proposing on sites that would be great for high density, great for affordable housing projects. They're proposing townhomes. So they're dumbing it down. Townhomes are like Big Macs. They're guaranteed profit, even in this marketplace. So I think we're starting to see an unfortunate trend with some of these builders' remedies, and the longer we stay, you know, the longer we delay the approval process, you know, there's more opportunities for that sort of thing. So that's the downside.
And just to add to that builder's remedy comment, yeah, there's just no guarantee, right? When something's not consistent with the general plan land use designation or the zoning ordinance, I mean, like I said, builder's remedy is a fiction. We don't really know what it means, right? But that also is no guarantee that some developer is going to sweep in and just build the perfect high-density affordable housing. They're going to make money. I mean, if building affordable housing were lucrative, we wouldn't have an affordable housing crisis. So I think. If we're trending no, let's do the special meeting, right? Because if you need more time, let's do the special meeting, right? I don't want to leave this dais with you guys voting no on this, because whatever that means to the public, no matter what your reasons are, it's going to be the Planning Commission voted no on this. So I think you either vote to continue this or you vote to approve tonight. That's my personal recommendation as your attorney for the Planning Commission. So But yeah, it sounds like if you're not comfortable voting yes, then let's do the special meeting and wait.
Commissioner Young.
So, first of all, Chair, thank you for handling this. This is really difficult. I think it's difficult for all of us, but so I'm reflecting back on Coyote Valley and those of us who were on the commission, and we voted no, and I voted no, and I hated to vote no, and this commission took a lot of criticism for voting no, because we were accused of being anti-environment and all the things that we basically weren't, but that's what we were accused of, which is, I think, what our attorney's kind of getting to. So I just want to provide a story that might provide a little perspective. In February of 2022, I went to a Planning Commissioners Academy that Cal Cities runs. And the housing element was the single most debated, discussed item at that workshop. It was a multi-day workshop. And I sat through the first day of literally every Cal City staff member and city representatives talking about how to avoid all the state mandates and basically build as little housing as possible. And finally, on the second morning, about 9 o'clock, I got up and I said, how about if we talk about how we can build more housing rather than, and I got a round of applause from half the room and a round of boos from the rest of the room. But my point is that the staff has gone through a long process. I mean, if you look at the community engagement, there's been a lot of time for folks to engage. I think I cannot criticize the public outreach process at all. I think there's been a lot of opportunities. So personally, I don't think, for me, that would not be a good reason to vote no. I think there's been enough. Yes, it's very unfortunate that we only had a week to look at this, agreed. But considering the options, and I agree with our attorney, I think we should either vote to pass or continue. And I'm not comfortable continuing only because there's going to be so few of us there at a continued meeting. So I guess what I'm going to do at this point is make a substitute motion. I'm not sure this is correct. The attorney can tell me. I'm going to make a substitute motion to approve the staff recommendation.
A second.
A second.
Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Ornelas Wise on the motion to approve the staff recommendation. Any other further comments on the motion, Commissioner Young? Are there any comments from the seconder, Commissioner Ornelas Wise?
I mean, I do like to emphasize that we would obviously like to have more time and give the public more time when it's something so important. And I know that the staff has done the best that they could, and I really appreciate that. It's unfortunate that, there's all these time constraints. I mean, having grant money available that could be potentially lost for transportation, I think that's really huge because I don't know what the state's going to do. It's like all of a sudden it goes into this whatever, So I think that if individually we take the time to, if there's something that speaks to us enough, that we would go to the city council meeting or write a letter individually and then say, hey, or even, tell staff, write staff, say, hey, I noticed this, and yeah. I mean, I also think that I could have done a better job. I've reviewed housing elements for the county, San Francisco, I mean, all this. And this is San Jose, and where I'm editing, I could go through every page, and edit the whole thing. So, I mean, I just think that if there's something that is that important to each one of us, that I believe that we could submit it to either staff or to city council.
Okay.
Chair, could I indulge me one more comment?
Yes.
So this discussion, I think the reason it's hard is because I think of the saying I've heard, if you can't do the right thing, do the next best thing. I think Commissioner Cantrell was very eloquent and convincing, frankly, about what the right thing is to do. Unfortunately, I don't think we either have the resources or the ability to do the right thing. So I'm saying do the next best thing, which is to approve this, because I will tell you just another feedback I've gotten. The city of San Jose has done very, very well in housing compared to most cities in the state. In fact, there was an article in the LA Times recently commending San Jose for how much housing we've approved. And you can look at both cities, large and small, throughout the state that have very different meetings than this. I mean, this meeting in a way is really cool. I think this whole commission is in favor of more housing. There's many planning commissions in the state where it's very fiercely divided. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think, in my opinion, the next best thing to do is go ahead and approve this. You know, it's a framework, it's required by the state. I just think that's right. At this point, that's the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you. Maybe this is what's going on with the debt ceiling talks right now. Commissioner Cantrell?
Actually, I had one question. I was concerned whether if we don't approve this today, it does still continue to move forward to the city council, correct? And then there still will be an opportunity for the public to, okay. So our approval of this thing and moving it forward today really just says it's substantially done in terms of meeting the legal requirement, correct?
Yeah, I mean, this is basically, we believe in staff's work to recommend this to the city council, is what you're doing.
It's an act of fiction, but okay. But we're saying it's in terms of meeting the requirements that's been met, correct? And then the public does have time to respond. Okay, so I'd be willing to move this forward to council, as long as the public still has time to read and respond. I think that's fair. I do still think it would be great to have more time to look at these things in the future, and my comments will be less kind if we continue to have this problem, staffing problem, or whatever it is, because I've worked in business my entire career. You couldn't do this. You couldn't do this to a board. They'd fire you. I'm just being frank. So I say we can go ahead and move this forward, and hopefully the community will be able to give their impassioned pleas to the council.
Thank you, Commissioner Cantrell. Commissioner Larnois, I see your hand. I'm not sure if it's up from last time. So,
yeah, I just wanted to clarify because Commissioner Ornelas-Wise brought up grant funding. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that continuing to next week would not delay City Council's consideration of this item, and so would not jeopardize grant funding. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think it's going to put us in a squeeze, but I think if it were deferred till next Tuesday, Wednesday, we could still get to council on the 20th as planned.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, and also just the other part of your comment, I mean, of course, yes, we can always give comment to council as individuals. I know I did that during the Coyote Valley thing because I disagreed strongly with the commission's recommendation. But I also think that there's a lot more legitimacy to us speaking collectively as a body. And so that's why I think it's really important that we give considered feedback on the housing element. So respectfully, I'm going to vote no on the motion to approve the staff recommendation as is, because I think continuing would be a much better thing to do.
okay, I have two more names up here. Don't know if they're from over last time, but I have Tordillos and Barocio. Would you both like to speak? That's a yay. I'll go with the alphabetical order. Barocio.
Mine's real simple. So this is Robert's Rules of Order 101 here. So if commissioners put out another motion, the first motion just goes away, or does it need to be taken off the table?
If it's approved, it goes away.
Okay.
If the substitute motion is approved, it goes away. But if it's not approved, then you got the main.
Then you have the underlying motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So if we vote yes to approve the staff recommendation, that would be the end of it.
Right.
If we vote no, then we'd go back to the continuance motion.
Right. And this is just, for people who have seen more commission meetings, does that ever create problems? like just a pairing of commissioners just going back and forth.
Oh, on motions?
Yeah.
Oh, your council does it all the time. It's a strategy. It's a strategy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I don't think this was a strategy here.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no, no,
saying
no,
it's
no. This is just new to me. Okay.
I can't
Thank
remember
you.
the last time we did this.
So, okay, Commissioner Tortillos.
Thank you. I'm very sympathetic to a lot of the comments that have been raised here. I think all of you have raised a lot of compelling points. But I do want to kind of bring this back to what the actual, vote that we would be taking here today. Our vote today would not be about whether San Jose has historically done better on housing than other municipalities in the state. It wouldn't be about whether we think staff has done hard work or good work. We're fundamentally voting on whether we think the housing element draft as it's presented here is substantially compliant with what is laid out in state law. In some of my earlier public comments, I laid out some fairly specific areas where I had questions as to density calculations, planning pipeline, other elements, non-vacant sites, other things that are, verbatim in state law in terms of what is required of the housing element. And I'm just not at a place today where I feel like we can overcome those concerns in lieu of, meeting a deadline. So I'm still, a tentative no on this motion.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. I'm going to enter some comments from people that couldn't be here tonight. Comment number one is, I almost feel like the housing element is an exercise in futility. Another comment, no direction on how to generate billions a year to fund affordable housing. Next one, it doesn't seem like anyone is serious about reaching these goals. And finally, the state mandate is problematic and unrealistic, and the state is setting us up for guaranteed failure. Who made those comments? San Francisco County Supervisor Catherine Stefani, San Francisco County Supervisor Raphael Mandelman, San Francisco County Supervisor Dean Preston, and San Francisco Board President Supervisor Shannon Walton. So at the end of the day, there's no perfect scenario in any given government, local government entity when dealing with this law of the state. It's just what the state does as cities. And staff has done their work. And so I'm inclined to accept it, knowing that I don't necessarily agree with it all, especially for what I just laid out for people that are elected officials in a very progressive city. And so I think ultimately I'll be supporting the motion here just to move this along, and knowing that the public will have over a month, approximately a month, to comment on this item continuing. So thank you. So now we will vote. Commissioner Lardenois.
No.
Commissioner Barosio.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Casey.
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia.
Yes.
Commissioner Ornelas Wise.
Yes.
Commissioner Rosario.
Is there a way that we could incorporate the statements you just made into our?
Let's
our
talk about
message?
that after.
All right. Yes.
Yes or no vote?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Tortillos.
No.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
And myself, yes. So that will display the vote. That does pass. I'm happy for staff to, as staff summarizes and has the video to take our comments, I'm happy for them to, and I'm sure those aren't the only elected officials who have opined as they have voted on their housing element. It's not just, it's kind of universal. I mean, if you go to the League of Cities or City Managers Conference, they're all the same, kind of dealing with it. Yeah, but I got to do it. So,
I mean, I think the vote isn't displaying, but it's 8 yeses and 2 nos.
okay. And let's see here. So now we're on to that part of the agenda where the planning director report from City Council.
Yes, the only thing that I got was not something the Planning Commission considered. It was the City Initiatives Roadmap, Beautify SJ, Vehicle Blight Status Report. So I can tell you what happened, but the council approved accepting the status report as recommended by the Transportation Environmental Committee. So this is not something that you heard, but this is what I was given. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Okay, Commissioner Cantrell, I see your hand up for this item.
Yeah, I just had a statement. Sorry, I had a statement for public record, if we're ready for that.
For the item we just voted on?
No, in general.
Let's do that under, where does commission make their
It's
comments?
D, is item D.
Under public record. Got it. Okay. So we don't have anything under B, nothing under C, and we'll go straight to D. Commissioner Cantrell.
Okay. I think I've said this earlier, and I say it for a reason, because it definitely concerns me that we see a lot of language in these meetings about equity, diversity, inclusion. It's language. It's not reflected by any data or any real, actual lived experience. It's not a lens. And I would really just implore our city staff to really reflect on the lives of the people in this city that they're charged to try and work for, and to actually apply a lens and not just the language of a lens. Real equity will be felt by the people who live here in substantial ways. We can't just speak to it as if the words carry the meaning and the purpose. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner. And that will adjourn till June. Everyone have a great Memorial Day weekend, and thanks for everyone's contributions this evening. Thank you very much.
We didn't approve the meeting minutes, did we?